Chapter 861. The sky had finally turned bright. The walls of Muyu City were filled with corpses. Almost 70% of the magic crystal cannons had been destroyed. However, the good news was that Long Ji's army had retreated once again. They had also suffered heavy losses. They had even lost a few dragon knights. In the chaotic artillery fire, even a god could not protect himself. Luo Xian was covered in dust and blood. He slowly walked past the walls with his spear in hand. Looking at the rows of corpses of the Steel Blade Army soldiers, his heart kept trembling. This was the first time he had experienced such a bloody battle since he took charge of the Steel Blade Army. It was also the first time he had seen the Steel Blade Army suffer such a disaster. "Move the corpses into the city and burn them together to prevent the spread of the plague," he said calmly. "Yes, Duke Xian." Su Zhangyan nodded and waved his hand. A group of Kiliarchs began to give orders. It's already the third day. Luo Xian placed his hand on the cold battlement. It was unknown whether it was because of the cold weather or because he had exhausted too much of his divine power, but his voice was slightly trembling. He said, "Why haven't Prince Xian's reinforcements arrived yet?" Su Zhangyan said, "Feng Jixing has always been calm and steady when using troops. Let's wait a little longer. There will definitely be news." Could it be that Prince Xian's army has already been intercepted and killed on the way? No, definitely not. Su Zhangyan shook his head. Feng Jixing is not so easily defeated. He is Feng Jixing. However, after saying that, Su Zhangyan also felt that his words were not convincing enough. Although Feng Jixing was powerful, his opponent was the powerful Tianji Empire. The Tianji Empire, which had many God-state realm experts to assist them in the battle, was beyond the scope of military strategy. If Feng Jixing was careless, he might be killed by another deity. At this moment, a servant in charge of keeping messenger birds ran over excitedly. He said loudly, "Commander, good news? Good news." He quickly knelt down on the snowy ground and did not care about the mud on his knees as he passed a letter to Luo Xian and said, His Highness Feng Jixing had led 50,000 elite armored cavalry and used a roundabout tactic to attack Zhanlang Pass and had already taken it down. What? Feng Jixing attacked Wolf Town? Luo Xian was startled, but then her face was full of joy as if she had suddenly realized something. She clapped her fists and said with a smile, "What a clever Feng Jixing. Once we lose the wolf-subduing pass, the Tianji Empire will lose its rear supply and will definitely be defeated. As long as we hold the pass, Feng Jixing's strategy of outflanking will be able to kill these 200,000 enemies in the huge territory of Yunzhong province." That's right. Su Zhangyan was extremely excited. He ordered, "Pass down my order. Strengthen the defenses of all sections of the city wall and defend the city. The dawn of victory is about to arrive." Below the city, the main camp of the Longji army was in chaos. They had also just received the news from Zhanlang Pass. How annoying. Fang Lan slammed her fist on the table, sending the teacups and plates flying. Her eyes were filled with anger as she said, "This annoying Feng Jixing, why is he in wolf-subduing pass? Commander Feng, it seems that we have underestimated the enemy." Lin Tongtian smiled faintly and said, "Feng Jixing is much more powerful than we thought. Once wolf-subduing pass is lost, we can no longer transport food from the northern desert. We can only rely on looting to replenish our food supplies. However, this is not a long-term solution. The citizens along the way have already hidden their food supplies. All the major trading companies have closed their businesses. Even if we want to buy food, we can't buy it. Unless we massacre the entire city, we will not be able to feed the 200,000 soldiers of the Longji army and the wolf soldiers. Then we will massacre the entire city." Fang Lan's veins were bulging. He said, "Feng Jixing forced me to do this. But Commander, don't forget the Marshal's order. No one is allowed to massacre the entire city. His Majesty has already included the Shattered Cauldron world into the territory of the Empire. As soldiers of the Empire, will we use the butcher's knife on our own people? We can't do this, we can't do that. Does Lord Lin Tongtian have any good ideas?" Fang Lan was rather anxious. Feng Jixing's tactics made him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. At this moment, Fang Lan had already lost his composure. Lin Tongtian laughed and said, "I do have an idea. I just don't know if Commander is willing to try it." "Go ahead. Since Feng Jixing has taken drastic measures, why don't we beat him at his own game? Based on what I know, there is a large amount of food, fodder, weapons and equipment stored in the Muyu City. The food is enough to feed 300,000 soldiers for half a year. The only thing we need to do is to take over the Muyu City. As long as we can take over the Muyu City, we will be able to take the initiative. Feng Lan squinted his eyes and smiled. I understand this logic. However, the Muyu city is impenetrable. We have been attacking it for 3 days and still haven't broken through. Lord Lin Tongtian knows this as well. Yes, but don't we have new helpers now? Lin Tongtian looked to the side, where a beautiful young lady was sitting. It was Duo La Luo Fei and Duo Li were also there. Lin Tongtian's lips curled up as he said, with the help of the battle angel, we only need to lure the commander of the Twilight Rain City out of the city, then we can kill him in one fell swoop and seize the city. Dora sat there calmly without saying a word. All she wanted was fresh blood, the more the better. Only then would she be able to increase the strength of her black wing. How do we lure him? It's simple. We will break camp at night and pretend to be rushing to the wolf-subduing pass. Then we will send someone to forge a letter from Feng Jixing, saying that Feng Jixing's troops are being held up by another of our troops and he is requesting for reinforcements from Luo Xian. As far as I know, Luo Xian is a loyal and brave man. He will definitely not let Feng Jixing be defeated. As long as Luo Xian leaves the city, we will change the target. With Miss Dora's help, we can use his head to kill our way into the Muyu city. Lin Tongtian paused at this point, then continued, although it's a bad move, if this can turn the situation of the entire Cloud Province around, then we can give it a try. Even if we fail, we won't lose anything. If we succeed, it will be a great achievement. Commander Feng, you have single-handedly taken over 14 prefectures of the Cloud Province. How do you think His Majesty will reward you? Feng Lan had always been a greedy person. She smiled widely and said, Lord Lin Tongtian is indeed a strategist. I'm very impressed. Then let's go with the plan. Miss Dora, you are an angel from the heavens. Please help me. Dora stood up and smiled while holding the Tig's spear. Don't worry, Commander. I am here to help you. I will do as you say. Good. Pass down the order to break camp and leave. Yes. It was close to noon. There were sounds coming from afar. Banners were fluttering in the wind. The Longji army and the wolf soldiers had begun to retreat. In a blink of an eye, more than half of the big and small tents had disappeared. As expected, they have retreated. Luo Xian did not sleep for the whole night, but she was surprisingly energetic. She said, calculate the provisions immediately. Pass down the order to close the gates. Without my orders, no one is allowed to leave the city to fight. Yes, Duke Xian. But at this moment, a messenger stumbled to the top of the city wall and said, Commander, there is a letter from the Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guards, Jianghu. The Imperial Guards are besieged by 50,000 wolf soldiers in the wolf-subduing pass. Deputy Commander Jianghu is requesting for reinforcements. What? Luo Xian snatched the letter. The handwriting on it was rather coarse and it was written in blood. Almost all the Imperial commanders recognized Feng Jixing's handwriting. But very few people had seen Zhang Wei's handwriting. No one even knew if Zhang Wei could write or not. Moreover, the words were written behind Feng Jixing's back. Feng Jixing was in charge of the wolf-subduing pass. Even if he was besieged, he was not willing to ask for reinforcements. It's over? Su Zhangyan's face turned ashen after reading the letter. He said, Feng Jixing is a straightforward person. He knows that once he asks for reinforcements, the Twilight Rain City will be in danger. So he gave the order to forbid asking for reinforcements. Zhang Wei wrote the letter in blood. It is enough to show how critical the battle in the wolf-subduing pass is. Could it be a trap? The old counselor said, if it is a trick from the Qinji Empire, what should we do? But Luo Xian was somewhat confused. Feng Jixing is the pillar of the empire and is also Her Highness Qin Yin's beloved general. If we sit back and watch Feng Jixing die in the wolf-subduing pass, how will we face the world? Moreover, Feng Jixing was besieged in the wolf-subduing pass because he wanted to help the Twilight Rain City. Even if this letter is forged, we must still give it a try. Otherwise, Luo Xian, will no longer have the face to live in this world. Saying that, he raised his steel spear and said, Su Zhangyan, how many Steel Blade Army soldiers are there in the city that can fight? There are 90,000 Steel Blade Army soldiers in the city, of which 50,000 are injured. Only about 50,000 are able to fight. What about the war mounts? More than 60,000. Good. Luo Xian's eyes were stern. Immediately mobilize the troops. I want 30,000 Steel Blade Army to follow me into battle. We will leave from the west gate in the afternoon and bypass the retreat route of Longji's army. We will use the advantage of the cavalry to rush ahead of them and break the siege of the wolf-subduing pass. The defense of the Twilight Rain City will be handed over to you. Su Zhangyan, you must remember to defend the Twilight Rain City. Yes, Duke Xen. In the afternoon, the concentrated sounds of horse hooves shook the west side of the Twilight Rain City. The endless cavalries disappeared into the sea of snow and headed towards the wolf-subduing pass from the west. But Luo Xian did not know that it was a trap that he could not avoid. In the evening, the large group of cavalry passed through the Jianghu Valley. Snow started to fall from the sky again. The two sides of the Jianghu Valley were covered by the snow. It was clean and nothing could be seen. Luo Xian and his men galloped past without the slightest bit of vigilance against the forest on both sides. Suddenly, a low roar sounded out. Release the arrows. Arrows rained down from both sides. A large number of Long Ji's archers appeared on both sides of the mountain. Shit, there's an ambush. A captaincy anxiously waved his arrows to block the arrows. But in the blink of an eye, he was turned into a porcupine. The majority of the men that Luo Xian led were light cavalry. For the sake of speed, they did not follow a rhythm. Screams sounded out as a few hundred men died instantly. Bastard. Luo Xian knew that he had fallen into a trap, but his heart ached for the 30,000 steel blade army that followed him. In the air, the roar of a giant dragon could be heard. A sharp chi energy attacked, but it was not a dragon knight. Instead, it was a beautiful young lady holding a spear. Her figure was graceful, but her eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. Chapter 862. 1. The Fergus spear was wrapped in golden light divine energy. It was aimed at Luo Xian's head at an unbelievably fast speed. Luo Xian, who was on horseback, naturally couldn't dodge. He could only raise his spear to block. His divine energy surged, and the purple dragon martial soul emerged from his body and circled around the spear shaft. Although Luo Xian had just entered the divine state, he was still a divine state expert. Unfortunately, the opponent he was facing this time was too strong. Bang! Light splashed everywhere, and Luo Xian's iron spear was actually bent by the Fergus spear. Although the purple dragon martial soul was a first-grade martial soul, it couldn't withstand the power of the law. Under the impact of Duo La's 50 waves of divine energy, the iron spear in Luo Xian's hand was instantly sent flying. Luo Xian even fell off his warhorse. Luo Xian raised his hand and pulled out his sword. Blood was already dripping from the corner of his mouth. He roared angrily, "Smelly whore, come at me." Duo La hated it when people called her this because it was the right thing to do. It made her feel a deep pain. Go ahead and curse me. I'll make sure your intestines rot and you die. Dora's eyes were filled with resentment. Like a roaring lion, a pair of black wings on its back frantically flapped and unfurled. The power of the law of darkness and light surged as the Dig's spear pierced forward like a blazing flame. Luo Xian couldn't block this attack anymore. Clang! Sparks splashed everywhere. The Fergus spear easily broke Luo Xian's steel sword, and with a poochie sound, it pierced Luo Xian's abdomen. Suddenly, a wave of pain hit Luo Xian, and he couldn't help but scream miserably. Is it very painful? That's not all. Duo La's smile was very charming, but it was also a charm that made people fearful. With a light shake of his palm, the Fergus spear twisted and turned in Luo Xian's abdomen. The tip of the spear instantly pierced through Luo Xian's abdomen. When the spear was pulled out, blood splattered everywhere. Poor Luo Xian, Su Muyun's adopted son, knelt on the ground just like that. Luo Xian had died in battle. Oh. Dora rushed forward like a shadow and quickly pressed Luo Xian to the ground. Her claws tore through Luo Xian's breastplate and armor like claws. A look of greed appeared on Dora's face as she laughed maniacally. She stabbed her hand into Luo Xian's still warm chest and dug out her heart. Her expression became even more bloodthirsty as she gently bit the warm heart and chewed it. Strands of divine power flowed from Luo Xian's body into Dora's black wings. She was actually absorbing the remaining divine power in Luo Xian's body. Luo Fei couldn't help but frown. What kind of existence was this woman who slept with him every day? Was she an angel or a demon? At this moment, Luo Fei was confused. So much so that even the experienced soldiers of Long Ji's army could not bear to watch anymore. Although Luo Xian was their mortal enemy, but to see him fall into such a state made them unable to accept it. Gotcha. Dora threw away the half-eaten heart. Her body was full of energy. She used her dagger to chop off Luo Xian's head and held it in her hand. She licked the blood at the corner of her mouth and said, "Tastes good. Commander Fanglan, I have helped you kill Luo Xian. Now can we go and take the Muyu city?" Feng Lan nodded and smiled. All right, thank you Miss Dora for your help. Outside the valley, the 30,000 Steel Blade Army soldiers were engaged in a bloody battle, but the outcome was clear. They were surrounded by the 70,000 steel cavalry of the Longji army, and no matter what, they could not win. No one knew who shouted, but in the blink of an eye the Steel Blade Army soldiers started to retreat. If their commander died, it would be meaningless for them to die here. Don't chase. Looking at the scattered Steel Blade Army soldiers, Feng Lan ordered, taking the Muyu city is more important. These defeated soldiers are no longer a threat. Everyone advance at full speed. Take the Muyu city before midnight. Night fell. Torches were lit on the city walls. Su Zhangyan frowned as he looked outside the city. There was still no news. His heart was getting more and more uneasy. Dong dong dong. Suddenly there was the sound of war drums in the distance. The torches were lit up. It was the sound of the war drums of the Tianji Empire. It seemed everything was clear. Duke Xn, have you died for your country? Su Zhangyan raised his head and laughed. He laughed so hard that tears flowed down his face. Why did a person like you have such a tragic ending? The generals on the city walls were panicking. A captaincy asked anxiously, Deputy Commander, what should we do? The Longji army and the wolf soldiers have returned. What else can we do? Su Zhangyan raised his long sword and yelled, Brothers, we are all soldiers of the Empire of Great Qin. We eat the food given to us by the people of Great Qin. What we use and wear are all given to us by the people. The bandits are killing and humiliating our families and compatriots. What should we do? Everyone raised their swords and said, Fight to the end. Yes, fight to the end. Prepare to defend the city. Archers and crossbowmen, get into position. The city was crowded with people, and the soldiers began to take their positions. A new round of defending the city was imminent. After 3 days of defending the city, they had almost used up all the magic crystal cannons. They only launched an attack every few minutes, but most of them were blocked by the Dragon Imperial battle wheel. The archers all pulled their bows and the bowstrings made a squeaking sound. Shoot! The arrows fell like rain and fell among the people holding black shields under the city walls. However, at this moment, a graceful figure slowly approached the city wall. It was a powerhouse dressed in an angel's attire. A pair of black wings spread out from her back, and there was a faint smile on her face as she looked at the group of archers on the city wall. When the arrows fell, they were all repelled by a golden wall of light a meter away from her body. Moreover, she was holding a human head in her hand. The face could be seen in the light of the fire. It's Duke Xn. Duke Xn died in the battle. Oh my god, Duke Xn was killed by her. Kill her. Someone kill her for me. A captaincy on the city walls shouted with a trembling voice. Hundreds of arrows were aimed at her at the same time, and they shot out with all their might. Shooting at such a close distance was even more destructive. The arrows continuously splashed against the wall of light, creating small ripples. The light was extremely bright, but she revealed a smile, a rather sinister smile. Golden energy surged, and she screamed crazily as if she had fallen into darkness. The power of light rippled out, engulfing the entire city gate. Everyone was forced to close their eyes, and when they opened their eyes again they were stunned. The 2 wings on the young girl's back had suddenly turned into 4. The 4 black wings slowly swayed, symbolizing power, but also symbolizing death. Oh my god! Duo Li was dumbfounded. Luo Fei frowned. She broke through to become a 4-winged angel without the blessing? What did Dora go through to give her such an ability? At this time, Duo La raised the bottom spear, and a golden ripple bloomed on the tip of the spear with a ding sound. The spear also gently stabbed forward. When it reached its limit, there was a sudden boom, and a huge golden power of light swept half of the city gates like a monstrous wave. Boom! The wave of air smashed the iron gate and half of the city gates, and the front became a void. No one knew how many people died under Duo La's attack, but one thing was for sure. The Muyu city, which was known to be invincible and one of the 7 famous cities, had fallen. Duo La walked into the city gate step by step, and a golden ripple appeared under her feet. She raised her head, and a pair of faint blood-red eyes were like beautiful gems on her fair face. Her voice was very soft, but it went straight to the heart. Those who resist will die, and those who surrender will live. On the city wall, the group of Steel Blade Army was stunned. The dignified Muyu city had fallen just because of a woman? However, under Duo La's gaze, many people could not hold their weapons anymore. Dang dang dang. Spears, swords and longbows fell to the ground. Many of the Steel Blade army had already knelt on the ground. They had given up resisting and decided to surrender to the enemy. What about you? Duo La's figure slowly flew up, and she looked indifferently at the highest commander of the city, Su Zhangyin, the last commander of the Su family. Plop. Su Zhangyin gently knelt on the ground. He could not resist this irresistible power, and the fear of death lingered in his heart. At this moment he was no longer thinking about dying for the country, but about his children and beloved wife. If he died for the country, perhaps his name would appear on the nation-suppressing monument, but what about his wife and children? He was greedy for the warm embrace of his wife, greedy for the satisfaction of having his children around him. He was afraid of death, so he chose to surrender. Okay. Duo La smiled slightly. That's good. Outside the city, the people of the Longji army continuously entered the city, accepting the surrender of the tens of thousands of Steel Blade army soldiers. No one had thought that this would be the result. The main force of the empire, the Steel Blade army, would be defeated so thoroughly. The defeat of the Steel Blade army meant that the entire Cloud province had fallen. After the defeat of the Steel Blade army, no one could stop the Longji army. After midnight, Lin Tongtian and Feng Lan discussed a counterattack plan. They would send out 100,000 soldiers to attack Feng Jixing's army. Among them, 50,000 wolf soldiers and 50,000 Longji army would be led by Lin Tongtian, one of the 3 dragon riders of the empire. Duo La also agreed to go with them. After all, their opponent was Feng Jixing, and he would not be as easy to deal with as Luo Xan. The next day the news reached Wolf Subduing Pass. Luo Xan died in battle. Feng Jixing stood on the cold city wall, looking in the direction of Muyu City. His expression was very calm, as if he had already expected it. The last fief of Duke Muyun has also been lost. Your Highness, what should we do? The Longji army will reach us in a day. Zhang Wei was a little anxious. Feng Jixing looked at Luo Yu. What do you think we can do now? Luo Yu nodded, and after thinking for a while she said, we only have 2 choices now. One is to retreat to the south, use the speed of the cavalry to avoid the pursuit of the Longji army, escape to the Cloud Ridge, and guard there to prevent the Longji army from continuing to invade the south. The second choice is to advance to the north, enter the 8 wastelands, completely destroy the northern desert wolf tribe, and then kill their way to the Tongtian Gorge to meet up with Qian Feng's army. Retreat to the south. Feng Jixing said resolutely. We cannot destroy the northern desert, but we cannot lose the Heaven's Pivot province. Yes. Chapter 863. In the secret chamber, the candlelight flickered as if it was being attacked by a subtle force. It was even shaking violently as if it was going to be extinguished at any time. The entire secret chamber was made of black stones. It was empty except for a stone bed in the corner, and the person sitting on the stone bed was Lin Muyu. Her body was glowing with a faint golden light, and the light was getting thicker and thicker, as if a great power was about to burst out of her. His face was covered with sweat and his body was trembling. The golden wheel tower in his Ehai was getting taller and taller. It was spinning at a high speed and divine power was enshrouding it. The entire tower was like a huge container that was slowly filtering the divine power of the Supreme Being. After the divine power was refined by the container, it was turned into pure elephant divine power. It flowed through the bottom of the tower and seeped into his meridians. It was then sent to every part of his body. Wong. His palms suddenly lit up and a strand of elephant divine power grew out like a sprout. It grew bigger and bigger and the light became stronger. In a blink of an eye, it turned into an elephant wheel. Then a second golden elephant wheel appeared. Lin Muyu's gaze became more penetrating as if he could see through everything in the world. The armor around his body fluttered even though there was no wind, and a powerful aura spread out. He gathered his strength and continued to activate the divine power. Finally, another elephant wheel was formed in his palm. This was the third one. Stepping into the second stage, 10 elephant punishing heavens would require the condensation of 10 elephant wheels. When the 10 elephant wheels combine into one, it would be the domineering move of 10 elephant punishing heavens. However, Lin Muyu was still far from that. She could only condense 3 elephant wheels, so the power she could unleash was only the first stage, 1 elephant white earth. Phew! He took a deep breath and dispersed the divine power in his body. He looked to the side and saw a total of 3 demon spirit stones. He did not expect that he had refined 3 demon spirit stones in just a few days. It was no wonder that the divine power in his body was getting stronger. He shouted softly and the power in his meridians boiled. Rays of golden light turned into waves and circulated in his palm. There were a total of 29 waves. Unknowingly he was already close to the Divine King realm. He only needed a small leap to reach it. He was slightly happy. He raised his hand and opened the stone door. He saw that Bai Yin and the other royal guards were already dozing off. "What time is it?" he asked. "It's almost dawn, Your Highness," Bai Yin said as he rubbed his sleepy eyes. Lin Muyu strode towards the direction of the stronghold's conference hall. "Are Xiao Shi and Sister Chu Yao asleep?" "I don't know. Any news from Yunzhong province?" "The information is in the hands of the officials of the Imperial Decree Office. We are here accompanying His Highness, so we don't know." "Come with me." "Yes." Outside the conference hall, there was a forest of armored soldiers. Ever since Bai Minghuan almost succeeded in assassinating Feng Jixing, every important general and official had many guards around them. Although they might not be of much use, they could still make people feel more at ease. The eastern sky was already turning bright. The conference hall was brightly lit. From afar, Tang Xiaoxi's gentle and beautiful figure could be seen leaning against a chair, her hand holding a pen dipped in ink. In front of her was a large pile of documents that had been reviewed. Ever since Lin Muyu went into closed-door cultivation, the handling of the Empire's matters, big or small, had fallen onto the shoulders of Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yan. "Xiaoxi." Lin Muyu walked up and held her shoulder lovingly. "Go back to your room to sleep?" "Woo!" Tang Xiaoxi slowly opened her eyes, and a faint golden divine power flashed through her eyes. She suddenly became spirited and said with a smile, "No need, I have already slept late." "Mu, have you finished your seclusion again?" "I was worried about the things outside, so I came out to see how the war in Yunzhong province is going. Has there been any news?" "Muyu." Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and hesitated to speak. "How is it?" Lin Muyu was a little anxious. Northern Duke Luo Xan died in battle. Last night's letter, Commander Feng Jixing could not save him, and Muyu City has also been breached. Now at this time, General Feng should be leading his troops to avoid the pursuit of Long Ji's army and return to Tianshu province to guard the sluice gate in Yunzhong. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red as she said, "Mu, don't be agitated. Yunzhong province has been lost, but we can take it back in the future." "Oh." Lin Muyu sat on the chair beside Tang Xiaoxi in a daze. She placed her hands on the table and only felt that her mind was in a mess. The situation was getting out of her control. The fall of Muyu City meant that the entire 14 provinces in Yunzhong had been handed over to the Tianji Empire. Countless fertile lands and trade were given to the Tianji Empire, which was equivalent to giving them a foothold in Shattered Cauldron World. "How is the situation of the troops stationed at the sluice gate in Yunzhong?" he asked. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. "Generally there are only 7,000 to 8,000 people guarding, but the sluice gate in Yunzhong is adjacent to the ancient road in Yunzhong. It itself is a huge fortress. The Yunling separates Yunzhong province and Tianshu province, and the sluice gate in Yunzhong is the only passage. As long as Feng Jixing guards the sluice gate in Yunzhong, even if Long Ji has millions of troops, they may not be able to kill their way in." "Yunzhong sluice?" "Yes, the sluice gate in Yunzhong." Tang Xiaoxi blinked her eyes intelligently and said, "This sluice gate in Yunzhong was rebuilt 20 years ago. At that time, Su Muyun already had 400,000 troops, and the sluice gate in Yunzhong was built under the orders of His Majesty Qin Jin. The sluice was built in the fortress in Yunzhong, and it was this fortress that guarded the 400,000 troops in Yunzhong province, making them unable to act blindly without thinking. Thinking about it now, His Majesty Qin Jin is really a wise ruler, and seems to be able to see through the things that will happen many years later." Lin Muyu asked again, "Did Yu Shu explain how Muyu City fell into enemy hands? Who killed Luo Xian? He is Xiao Yin's cousin, and we need to understand this matter clearly." There are not many words in the book, but it said that Luo Xian was killed by a battle angel called Dora. Battle angel? Yes, the Western Divine Realm banished 10 angels to the banished land. After that, these 10 angels, who were banished to the Divine Realm, came to the human world to help the celestial pole continent deal with us. This Dora's strength is ranked second among the 10 angels. It is said that the first is even more powerful and her name is Xiyin. Xiyin? Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said, "It's getting more and more complicated. Is there any news from Lingnan? Did the Blackstone Empire continue to attack? Also, is there any news from Mingshan province? Has Xiangyu arrived at Xiangyang City?" "Not for the time being. We are too far away from Lingnan, and there is still the Qinling Mountains in the middle. Moreover, I suspect that our messenger bird might have been hunted down and killed by the Blackstone Empire soldiers in Linкong province, so the news won't be able to reach us. Let's hope that Su Jiantao and Xiang Yu can work together to defend Lingnan. Lin Muyu let out a light breath, feeling as if there was a large stone pressing down on her heart. If Lingnan also fell, then more than half of the empire's 13 provinces would fall. If that was really the case, she would have let down Qinyin in this life and let down Qinjin in death. The promise she had made in the past would probably become an illusion, a dream in the void. After a while he asked, "How is the situation in the north?" "North?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled lightly, "It's relatively stable. Our spies have reported that Baiming Huan has already restored Gong Xiangming's position as the military advisor. As for Zhou Xinyao, he failed in his command and was exiled to the rear by Baiming Huan for being an armchair strategist. After Gong Xiangming regained control, he began to mobilize the manpower and resources in Tongtian province, mining the mountains as if he wants to build a few fortresses to face our steel walls." "Build fortresses?" Lin Muyu clenched her fists. Gong Xiangming is indeed a smart guy. He knows that the north of the Luo River estuary is a flat land with no obstacles to defend. As long as we send out our troops, there will be no obstacles. So he wants to build fortresses out of thin air. If not, they will always be passive and can only wait for our troops to break through. Yes, they have mobilized at least 300,000 people from the 13 provinces of Tongtian province to build fortresses in the north of the Luo River estuary. They are also opening up wastelands, farming and grazing. It is said that they are also digging ditches to water the fields. They are completely treating Tongtian province as their own. Lin Muyu smiled. "In your dreams? Right, is there any news about the Tongtian Gorge? How is Qianfeng's army? Has it been attacked by the Qinji Empire?" "Yes, 5 days ago, Baiming Huan sent an army of 70,000 people with 30 dragon knights to attack the Tongtian Gorge. The result is still unknown and I don't know if Qianfeng can stop them. He only has 20 or 30,000 soldiers." "Qianfeng, the demons?" Lin Muyu stood up and gently stroked the map behind her with her finger. The Tongtian Gorge was only as big as a fist on the map, but in Lin Muyu's mind, it was infinitely magnified. Baiming Huan's intention was very simple. The Flowing Spirit Army was stationed in Tongtian province, which was between Lingdong province and the Tongtian Gorge. They had to settle down first before they could concentrate on dealing with the main force of the Qin Empire in Lingdong province. Once Qianfeng was defeated, Baiming Huan would be able to connect with the Flowing Spirit Army in Tongtian province and the 8 wastelands. But as long as Qianfeng was not defeated, the tens of thousands of demon troops in the Tongtian Gorge would be like a wedge that would divide the forces of the Qinji Empire in the north. Therefore Qianfeng must not be defeated. If Qianfeng was defeated, the Qin Empire would lose half of its power. "Send out the Eagle Scouts. I want to send a gift to Qianfeng," Lin Muyu said softly. "Oh, someone call Prince Zhong in." "Yes." Very quickly Lin Muyu handed over a spatial bag filled with items to Qin Yan, and Qin Yan went to gather the Eagle Scouts. There were 3 types of soldiers that the Empire used as scouts. The first was the messenger bird, but it had to be a signal that had gone through strict training, and the conditions were rather harsh. The second was the light cavalry, and the third was the Eagle Scouts. They domesticated giant eagles and chose soldiers with slightly thin physiques to ride on. This way they would be able to achieve the greatest scouting ability. As for things like delivering items, naturally the Eagle Scouts would be responsible for it. Right at this moment, a strange cry suddenly came from the sky to the north of the meeting hall. It was the roar of a giant dragon. "What?" Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold as she looked towards the north. Qin Yan rubbed his nose and said with a smile, "It's already a common occurrence. Every day there would be dragon riders spying and checking on our military situation 10 li away from the steel protective wall. There would be a few batches every day." "Do they still think that they can come and go as they please?" Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with dense hatred as she said, "I'll be right back. Sister Chu Yao, prepare breakfast. Wait for me to eat together." Qin Yan. Chapter 864. In the sky above the Tianqiong Snow Mountain the cold wind was howling. This was a height that mortals could not reach, but there was a kind of creature that could, and that was the dragon. Amidst the fierce wind, 2 huge figures flew across the sky one after another. They were the 2 dragon knights of the Tianji Empire, Su Xiao and Wang Hu. Su Xiao was the dragon knight general, with a cultivation of level 30 heavenly abode. He was only 22 years old, and he was the youngest immortal king in the entire Tianji Empire. Behind him was the brilliant Su family. As for Wang Hu, he was a commoner, nearly 30 years old, with a cultivation of level 18 heavenly abode. Swoosh, swoosh, in the whistling sound, the two giant dragons rushed out of the curtain of snow together, leaving a long trail of wind and snow behind them. In front of them was the rising sun. The Tianqiong Snow Mountain area and the periphery were two completely different worlds. From afar, the steel wall looked like a long black dragon winding on the ground. Wang Hu could not help but sigh with emotion. He said, "Lord Su Shao, you see, the Qin Empire is indeed full of capable people. Such a marvelous and unprecedented steel wall is a wonder." Su Shao smiled disapprovingly. A pack of wolves is good at attacking while a flock of sheep is good at defending. No matter how strong the steel wall is, it cannot stop the sharp sword of the Tianji Empire. The people of the Qin family are just a flock of lambs waiting to be slaughtered. You see, so many days have passed and not a single one of them dares to come out of the steel wall. What a bunch of trash. As long as we regroup, we can destroy all the Qin army behind the wall in one go. Yes, Lord Su Shao is right. Wang Hu's eyes flickered with hope. He said, "Our Liuji army has been attacking and conquering. If we can also conquer Lingdong province, the martial Saint Emperor will probably issue an imperial edict to reward the frontline soldiers. With Lord Su Zhao's contributions, you will at least be a first-class noble when you return to the empire. Humph, the whole family will be proud of you, Lord." Su Shao pulled the reins of the giant dragon and sneered. "Maybe. The old man in my family is very pedantic. He was against me joining the expedition. Let's see what he will say when I go back." "Ha ha, yes." Amidst their laughter, the space in front of them suddenly became chaotic. Strands of stray energy rushed in all directions, and the sound of pa 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 did not stop. A purple light flashed, and a young general holding a long sword appeared. He wore 3 golden stars on his collar, and a purple flower pattern was engraved on his chest. Was Lin Muyu? You. Su Shao was slightly startled, and his heart could not help but tremble. He forced himself to calm down and said, "You are the Qin Empire's queen, Lin Muyu?" "Yes." Lin Muyu unsheathed her ice essence sword with a bright smile on her face. "What can I do for you?" Su Shao also raised his dragon spear. Lightning flickered. He actually cultivated the extremely difficult to control lightning loss. Wang Hu unsheathed his dragon sword and was taken aback. "Lin Muyu, how dare you? Are you thinking of challenging 2 dragon knights by yourself? Our Lord Su Shao is a divine king. You are courting death." Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and said with a smile, "I can see that you are just a divine king who has just stepped into the 30th level of Grotto Heaven. Do you really think the territory of the Qin Empire is your own? Do you really think you can come and go as you please? Today I am afraid that neither of you can leave." Su Shao felt the terrifying pressure from Lin Muyu and hurriedly spun his dragon spear. Crackling sounds came from behind him, which was the prelude to the opening of the space crack. But who would have thought that Lin Muyu saw it, and the corner of her mouth suddenly raised slightly. With a shout, the wind and clouds surged around, and the buzzing sounds were endless. As Lin Muyu raised her palm, a huge wind pillar swept around. Under the rapid rotation of the wind pillar, the space force field instantly began to distort. Even Su Shao could no longer feel the shattering power of the 4-dimensional space. "Heaven and earth, listen to my command." The 8 syllables was the foundation of the formless elephant technique. Every time the formless elephant technique was activated, one must chant the 8 syllables mantra. Otherwise, it would be difficult to control the mighty divine power. Cutting through space failed. Su Zhao's face turned even uglier in the blink of an eye. The natural aura of Lin Muyu in front of him was not something that an ultimate god should have. Even a divine king would not have such confidence and calmness. Where the sword flashed, Lin Muyu's figure had already disappeared. The next moment when she appeared, a ball of purple flame had condensed on the blade of her sword. It was the effect of the purple sun falling to the earth attack. She directly attacked Su Zhao's dragon spear. As long as she could get rid of him first, the other dragon knight would obviously not be a problem. Come on. Su Shao was wild and bloodthirsty by nature. He had never been afraid of war. The lightning on the dragon spear soared into the sky, and he suddenly stabbed it towards the ice essence sword's blade. Bang! Lightning and flames splashed in all directions. Lin Muyu's arm was slightly numb from the impact, but Su Shao was in a worse state. The dragon spear almost flew out of his hand. Was this kid still a ultimate god? The strength of his divine power was at least 50% stronger than his divine king level. It was obvious that the supreme divine power derived from Lin Muyu's sovereign godhead could increase the strength of her divine power by at least 30%. Moreover, she had summoned the 7 luminaries' celestial sword martial soul to enhance the sword's strength by another 20%. It was expected that she could completely suppress Su Zhao's strength. The two immediately separated as soon as they collided. The surging light in the air was endless. Su Zhao looked up at his strong opponent with a sinister smile. Interesting. Come on, let me see how strong you, the so-called Qin Empire's #1 god, are. He quickly circulated his divine power and used almost all of his divine power on the dragon spear. Even the purple-scaled lightning dragon under him could not take it anymore. It raised its head and let out a cry of pain. Its mouth was filled with lightning. Su Zhao knew something was wrong. He was going to fight with all his might. Moreover, Su Zhao's body was surrounded by a golden protective wall. This person actually comprehended the divine wall. He was quite lucky. Lin Muyu raised her hand and sheathed her sword. She put her palms together and faced Su Zhao. With a low roar, the surrounding space distorted again. The invisible domain power controlled everything around them. The spirit wheel tower in her Yi spun rapidly. There was a buzzing sound in her palms. An elephant wheel with a radius of about 2 meters quickly appeared in her palms. It rotated slowly with great momentum. Buzz. The earth turned pale in the blink of an eye. Time seemed to have frozen. At this moment, Su Zhao's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. He had completely given up. The aura that Lin Muyu had unleashed was not something that he could withstand. In fact, he even wanted to submit to her. No, it was hard to imagine what kind of power could make a divine king beg for mercy. However, Lin Muyu's attack did not stop at all. The huge elephant wheel swept across, bringing with it a puff of blood and the cry of the giant dragon. Boom. An elephant turned white. This was the first time Lin Muyu had used the invisible elephant art. Blood floated in the air. Su Zhao's body and the giant dragon fell down together. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. All the meridians in his body were rapidly ruptured. In the next second, with a boom, the man and the dragon turned into dust in the air. Even the defense of the divine wall could not save his life. So strong? Lin Muyu stood in the air. She could not help but be shocked. This invisible elephant art was indeed a power that did not belong to the 3 realms. Such a strong destructive power. It was a level higher than the stellar art and 7 luminaries. Not far away, Wang, whose hand holding the dragon sword had already begun to tremble. However, he could not escape. Within the invisible elephant art's domain, the force field was completely destroyed. The power of breaking through the void was ineffective. Unless one's power was above Lin Muyu's, one could only obediently accept death. Can you not kill me? Wang, whose voice trembled slightly. Even if you want to show off to Marshal Dark North, someone has to send the message, right? No. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. She said, there's no need to send the message. The dragon riders have been reduced. It's the same as sending the message to Baiming Huan. Do you want me to do it or do it yourself? As she spoke, Lin Muyu looked at him quietly. Her eyes shone with a golden luster. The domain power of the invisible elephant art spread out again, making people feel unconsciously suffocated. I can't take it anymore, Wang, whose voice trembled slightly. He pulled out his sword and slashed it across his neck. Blood splattered everywhere. His throat moved slightly and his life force quickly disappeared. What kind of power could force a Saint Martial Venerable to commit suicide? Lin Muyu gently raised her hand and sucked out Wang, whose godhead. Then she found Su Zhao's godhead. Both of them were mortals. It was a little disappointing, but it was still not bad. Roar. Wang, whose mount was a fire dragon. It roared at Lin Muyu. Its neck was enshrouded in flames. Was ready to go. Do you want to die? Lin Muyu's gaze was like a sword as he stared at it. Although he could not speak the dragon language, this fire dragon could understand the human language and could also feel the overwhelming pressure. In an instant, the fire dragon whimpered and its gaze softened. Lin Muyu turned around and rode on the dragon's back. He grabbed the reins and shouted, "Let's go, from now on, you're going to have a new master." The golden contract on the fire dragon's head quickly disintegrated. Under the protection of Lin Muyu's supreme divine power, it successfully broke the master-servant contract. On the steel wall, the soldiers of the Longdan army camp were dumbfounded as they watched a huge figure approaching from afar. Finally, someone shouted, "Be careful, it's a dragon knight. Their dragon knight is here again. Prepare the magic crystal cannon. Prepare the white drill arrows." However, at this moment, Situ Sen, who was in charge of guarding the city, narrowed his eyes and said, "Be on alert. The person riding on the dragon's back is Her Highness Yu. No one is allowed to shoot. Otherwise you will be killed." Whoosh! The fire dragon glided over the city wall. Everyone could see clearly that the person riding on the dragon's back was none other than Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu looked back and smiled. "General Sen, do you want to be a dragon knight? Follow me if you do." Without saying a word, Situ Sen sheathed his sword, put his hands behind his back and followed along with the wind. Chapter 865. Roar. The 15-meter-long behemoth landed on the open space in front of the Luo River Estuary Fortress's meeting hall, causing a group of Imperial guards to draw their swords. They only let down their guard when they saw that the person riding on the dragon's back was Lin Muyu. Tang Xiaoxi, Qinyan Chuyao, and the others rushed out of the hall and laughed when they saw the scene. "Did you kill it?" asked Tang Xiaoxi. "Yes, I did." Lin Muyu spread out his hands, revealing two sparkling and translucent divine sparks. He smiled and said, "I'm going to break through to the ultimate god realm today. I'll refine this divine king's divine spark myself, and I'll give the mortal spark to you, Xiaoxi." "All right, thank you, my dear." When Tang Xiaoxi said "my dear," she blushed. Wei Chou, Situ Sen and the others laughed. Chu Yao said, What do you plan to do with this dragon? Didn't we capture a dragon knight alive before? Did you manage to pry out the secret of the dragon knights from his mouth?" "Yes." Wei Chou nodded. "The form of the oath between a dragon knight and a dragon is a little different from our beast taming technique. It requires a ritual and bloodline resonance. How does your highness plan to deal with this fire law dragon?" "It's mine." Situ Sen walked forward and held the dragon's special reins. "Your highness has agreed to let me become a dragon knight." Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "Do you know about the dragon knight's oath?" "I do. I'm going to take it to the mountain to carry out the oath and bloodline resonance. It's now. I can't wait a moment longer." Situ Sen's eyes were burning with passion. The Imperial Army had already learned how powerful a dragon knight was. Now, if there was a dragon knight general in the Imperial Army, it would be a great boost to the morale of the Imperial Army. Moreover, it would also be a kind of mockery to the Tianji Empire. It would be a great blow to their morale. "Then go." Lin Muyu jumped down from the dragon's back and gave the water dragon to Situ Senator. She then smiled and said, "Let's go in and have breakfast. I'll continue cultivating after that." Situ Sen roared as he rode on the dragon's back and soared upwards. However, this fire dragon seemed to be very unruly, and it rolled a few times in the air, trying to throw Situ Sen off. However, this person's cultivation was extremely high, and he had already reached the divine heaven realm, which was enough to suppress this newly matured fire dragon. It was impossible for him to throw Situ Sen off. Chu Yao's culinary skills were as good as ever. After eating her fill, Lin Muyu immediately returned to her secret room and continued to cultivate. The refining cauldron surrounded by golden flames was taken out. When Lin Muyu put Su Zhao's godhead into it, it immediately made crackling sounds and flashed with lightning. After all, this was a godhead cultivated to the divine king realm. Even a mortal's godhead would be very difficult to refine. The lightning divine power inside was very vigorous, and it gave off a sense of ferocity that could counterattack at any time. Lin Muyu wasn't afraid of the godhead's counterattack. Even Su Xiao wasn't a match for her, and this godhead only contained half of Su Zhao's strength at most. There was nothing to be afraid of. Thus, she took out the refining fire and began the long refining process. It wasn't until the evening that the godhead finally began to disintegrate. Pieces of its outer shell started to peel off, and the azure spiritual power within it turned into strands of the law of lightning's divine power that flew up from the treasured refining cauldron. Then it was drawn into Lin Muyu's beer. Lin Muyu clenched his fists, and a wheel seemed to appear around his body. He used the shapeless elephant art to protect himself, and the backlash from the godhead was completely subdued before it could retaliate. Along with a sizzling sound, strands of lightning darted around his body before they were absorbed, refined, and absorbed. This process lasted for close to 2 hours, and the godhead became less and less. Under the repeated refinement of the spirit refinement art, more than 30% of the godhead's energy had been converted into Lin Muyu's own. In an instant, the supreme godhead's divine power in his chi-si became extremely majestic and vigorous. The moment he finished refining it, not only did he not feel tired, but he also felt as if he was filled to the brim with energy. It was time to break through to the ultimate god realm. He took a deep breath and said to Bai Yin, who was outside through the stone door, "No one, no matter what, is allowed to disturb me until I finish my cultivation." "Yes, your subordinate obeys," Bai Yin said in a low voice. Ever since he submitted to Lin Muyu, Bai Yin's official rank was getting higher and higher. Although the quality of his life might not be better than when he was a thief, at least he no longer had a guilty conscience. He now felt that every day was very fulfilling and happy. Apart from worrying about being killed by the Emperor God of the Qinji Empire, there was nothing else that made him unhappy. The breakthrough in cultivation had begun. He calmed his breath and divided the divine power in his body into two parts. One entered the EC and the other was stored in the Qi Si. The hidden gate in the Qi Si was like a shiny fruit embedded in the Qi Si. Only by breaking and tearing this hidden gate could he break through to the next grotto heaven realm. However, Lin Muyu knew how strong this hidden gate was. He had tried 7 or 8 times but he still couldn't break through. Hohu! Suddenly the waves in the Qi Si were tens of thousands of feet high. The rich supreme divine power was like a surging river. The divine power flowed through the meridians in his body and finally broke through the hidden gate. The first layer. The second layer. The third layer. Under the continuous attacks, by the 28th time, Lin Muyu was already very tired. His forehead was full of sweat, his sword-like eyebrows were tightly knitted, and his eyes were closed. He broke through. The 29th attack. Bang! The waves of divine power once again broke through the hidden gate in one go, but the veins on Lin Muyu's face were already bulging. He was on the verge of breaking down, but he didn't give up. He knew that his potential had not been fully developed, and he could still bear more power. Now was the time to fight. If he didn't put his life on the line, how could he do things that others couldn't? The 30th attack. His Qi Si was surging, and the meridians in his body were on the verge of breaking through. Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He felt as if he was placed in a furnace, and every part of his body was burning with unbearable pain. Every single one of his meridians was on the verge of exploding. Enduring the pain, he summoned the strongest energy in his body to break through the hidden gate. In his EC, the Supreme Being Lattice shone brightly. When Lin Muyu was breaking through the hidden gate, the Supreme Being Lattice was also frantically urging its God Force to help its master. Just when Lin Muyu was on the verge of breaking through, a new surge of energy gushed out from the Supreme Being Lattice, becoming the last straw that crushed the mountain. Boom! His mind was clear, and the hidden gate in his Qi Si had disappeared. His God Force was like a raging river, and at the same time, a strange energy was flowing through his meridians. Lin Muyu could feel its existence. He slowly opened his eyes and lightly opened his palm, shouting in a low voice, "Come out, let me see." Swoosh, 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 rays of dazzling golden light condensed around his body, forming a natural protective wall. It was the divine wall. It can't be real, right? Lin Muyu was ecstatic. Every cultivator who broke through to the hierarch realm and entered the 30th heavenly cave would have a certain chance of awakening the divine wall's ability. However, the chance was very low, less than 10%. Therefore, most cultivators were unable to control the divine wall. However, it just so happened that Lin Muyu had obtained this ability. He didn't know if it was because of the Supreme Being Lattice or if it was because of him, but it didn't matter anymore. The most important thing was that after obtaining the divine wall's ability, his defensive ability would be greatly enhanced. The divine wall's power was far greater than the gourd wall and the dragon blood battle shield. However, if the divine wall had these two defensive abilities, Lin Muyu's defensive ability would reach an indestructible level. At least, it would be impossible for experts of the same level to hurt Lin Muyu. He heaved a sigh of relief and suppressed his ecstasy. He asked, "Bai Yin, what time is it?" "It's just dark, Your Highness." "Oh, it's already dark." Lin Muyu continued to ask, "Is there any news from Yunzhong province and the Tongtian Gorge?" "Not yet, but the items that Your Highness sent to the Tongtian Gorge should be in Marshal Qianfeng's hands. According to the speed of the Warhawk scouts, they should be there by now. Moreover, there's a fierce battle in the Tongtian Gorge now. I'm not sure if Qianfeng can receive it." "I hope so." At that moment, what else could he do other than trusting Qianfeng? Boom, boom. Purple shockwaves from the Tongtian Gorge reverberated in the air. It was the winged men's suicidal attack. However, it didn't seem to have much effect as there were too many dragon knights in the sky. Rely on the mountainous terrain for defense. Cavalry return. Qianfeng ordered loudly, but the sounds of fighting on the plains in the distance were continuous. Those southern iron cavalry did not hear it, and most likely they would not be able to return. In this battle they would lose at least another 5,000 demon troops. Amidst the scattered footsteps, a young demon general holding a blood-stained sword walked over shakily. His face was covered in blood. Behind him were more than 10 high-ranking demon generals. Their eyes were filled with tears. The young general said in a trembling voice, "Marshal Qianfeng, the attack of the flowing spirit core is too fierce. If we keep fighting like this, the last bloodline of the god race will be destroyed." Lan He, I know. Qianfeng sat quietly on the rocks covered with blood and said, "But we don't have a choice. If we don't fight, the god race will still be destroyed. You know that." Lan He gritted his teeth and said, "But Marshal, Baiming Huan has already sent envoys to negotiate for peace. As long as we surrender to the Tianji Empire, we can avoid this disaster and keep the bloodline of the god race." Lan He. Qianfeng's voice was harsh. "Then do you know Baiming Huan's conditions? He wants us to give the young lady of the Nan family to one of their generals as a wife, and he wants us to choose 50,000 god race people to build a city for them. This is impossible. The god race that I, Qianfeng, will never be slaves to others." Lan He was stunned. Another general said, "But Marshal, we are here working for the Qin Empire, while those nobles of the Qin Empire are watching from the sidelines and enjoying Xiaoyao's life. Have they ever thought about our god race? Do they really think of us as their own people? If Lin Muyu really cherishes the agreement with the god race, she should send an army out of the Luo River and attack Baiming Huan from the front and the back." "Yes, Marshal, human beings can never be trusted," the other generals also said. Qianfeng sat alone in the pool of blood, his eyes lost. At this moment even he was a little hesitant. Were Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi really trustworthy? At this moment, there was a sound of wings flapping in the air. It was a Warhawk scout. He jumped off the back of the Warhawk holding a portal bag in his hand and said, "Marshal Qianfeng, His Highness King Qin has a letter and some gifts for you." Chapter 866. What is it? A group of demon generals asked in surprise. Qianfeng opened the space bag and suddenly items were displayed in front of him. They were armors and battle robes. There were a total of 10 custom-made white robes made by Imperial Forest. The purple flower rust on them was very fine. They were all carefully made by the palace servants in Zetian Palace. In addition, there was a golden collar robe, which was exactly the same as what Lin Muyu had worn before. It was a king's cloak. What does this mean? Lan He asked. Qianfeng looked at the robes and said, "It's probably a hint from Her Highness Lin Muyu, but I don't quite understand what it means." Lan He said, "Isn't there another letter?" Qianfeng hurriedly opened the letter. There were lines of calligraphy on it and it was written by Lin Muyu. Although his calligraphy was not a master, the vigor and strength revealed by his 10 years of military career was enough to explain everything. The handwriting was clear and the lines of words were reflected in the eyes of Qianfeng and a group of demon generals. "How can it be said that there is no clothing? Together with my son. The king sends troops to repair my spear. Together with my son. How can it be said that there is no clothing? Together with my son. The king sends troops to repair my spear and halberd. Together with my son. How can it be said that there is no clothing? Together with my son. The king sends troops to repair my armor and soldiers. Together with my son." This was a poem from the pre-Qin dynasty's Wind of Qin, without clothes. Lin Muyu used this poem to describe the current situation. The invasion of the Tianji bandits was like a calamity that swept across the vast land that the Qin Empire and the demon race relied on for survival. The poem was impassioned and filled with the same hatred for the common enemy. The devil race generals were dumbfounded, each and every one of them recalling the crushing defeat in the northern snowy plains. The devil race Emperor Feng Yuan and the two princesses had died together, and even ended up with their heads separated from their bodies. This was a disgrace to the devil race and also a disgrace to the entire god race. Lan He's eyes were red and tears came out of his eyes. He said in a trembling voice, "Lin Muyu? Does he really think of us as comrades?" Qianfeng clenched his fists and murmured, "These robes and armors represent Her Highness Lin Muyu's heart. Do we need more proof? Come, all captaincy-level generals, put on the clothes of the Empire. We are fighting for the god race and also for the Qin Empire. Since our king has passed, let them welcome our new king. She is Qin, the true master of this shattered cauldron realm." Yes. The group of generals put on the white robes and armors of the imperial forest one after another. As for Qianfeng, he put on the rusted golden robe that had been prepared for him. He mounted the horse and pulled out the sword from his waist. After that, he growled at the crowd, "Retreat! Retreat to the second pass. Send the remaining 5,000 armor demons to hide in the jungle on the left side of the second pass. Listen to my command. Once they arrive, 100 winged men will launch magic crystal attacks from the air to attract the attention of the Dragon Knights. At the same time, the Armor Demon Legion will charge out and crush the Tiger Leopard cavalry that they are so proud of. I want the Qinji Empire to know the power of the god race." "Yes, Marshal." The sounds of battle rose into the sky. Under Qian Feng's command, a battle of race and glory was being carried out in an orderly manner. The fierce battle lasted until late at night. Both sides suffered losses and withdrew their troops. In the starry night, the 10 miles of land outside the Sky Gorge was the camp of the Liuji army. In the central tent, a group of dancers from the Tianji Empire were dancing gracefully, while Bai Minghuan was drinking with a group of generals. Although he had stepped into the god realm as an emperor god, Bai Minghuan had never given up the pleasures of the human world, and it was precisely because of this state of mind that he continued to serve as the marshal of the empire. "Report." A messenger flew into the tent and reported respectfully, "Reporting to Marshal, the army that attacked the Heaven's Gorge has returned." "What's the result?" Bai Minghuan held a beautiful concubine in his arms and slowly moved his hands on her snow-white legs. He asked without looking up. Both sides suffered losses. The former general reported that they killed more than 40,000 of Qian Feng's men in the Sky Gorge. "What about us?" "More than 11,000 were killed and 20,000 were wounded." "A bunch of trash." Bai Minghuan suddenly threw the wine cup on the ground and said angrily, "A mere Sky Gorge and they still couldn't take it down after 3 days and even lost tens of thousands of my men. What a bunch of trash. Is Qian Feng even more powerful than Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing?" The messenger was so scared that he was trembling, and did not dare to say anything else. On the side, Gong Xiangming said respectfully, "Marshal, please calm down. We need to think about this further." "Think about what further?" Bai Minghuan was already angry. "Back then we got the news that the demons under Qian Feng were beaten back by Lin Muyu and Wei Chou. Otherwise they wouldn't have been almost wiped out by us in the frozen polar ground. An inferior demon that was almost wiped out actually managed to hold out for so long. What is this?" Gong Xiangming's eyes were calm as he said, "Marshal, you may not know this, but in fact Qian Feng is not a simple person. As far as I know, 8 years ago when the demons were at their peak, the Armor Demon Army led by Qian Feng defeated Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing, and almost forced the Qin army to surrender. If not for Lin Muyu's efforts to turn the tide, I'm afraid our only opponent now would be the demons. Qian Feng's strategy is not below Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing's, and his reputation among the demons is like the sun in the sky. With him personally guarding the Tongtian Gorge, his defensive ability naturally cannot be underestimated." Bai Minghuan was shaking with anger. "Mr. Gong, it's easy for you to say. Did you know that His Majesty sent me a letter yesterday, ordering me to wipe out Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing as soon as possible, and take down all the 8 provinces that the Qin army has occupied? But now North Ridge Province, Seven Seas Province, Sangnan Province, Tianshu Province, Earthstar Province, and Lingdong Province are all still in their hands. I've only occupied Cloud Province and Sky-Reaching Province, and that's not all. Just the Dragon Knights alone have died in battle, and if we can't take them down after a long time, how can I explain to His Majesty when I get back?" Gong Xiangming held the fan in his hand, looking at Bai Minghuan quietly. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Bai Minghuan was a little uncomfortable. Gong Xiangming smiled. "That will depend on how the marshal plans on accomplishing this feat." "Why do you say that?" "You also know that our army is just an expeditionary force that has traveled thousands of miles to come here, and our logistical supplies are far inferior to the other side. The reason why we can stand in Sky-Reaching Province now is that we have plundered their food reserves and forcibly taken from the people. But now, as you can see, the food reserves of the 13 prefectures in Sky-Reaching Province have almost been used up by us, and the original residents are also loyal to the Qin family, not to the Tianji Empire. The forced expropriation has led to a huge loss of population. If we continue to fight like this, I'm afraid that Sky-Reaching Province will soon become a province without people. Commander, conquering the Broken Cauldron world and the Qin army is far more difficult than we thought. We have to calm down first and then we can make our opponents panic." Gong Xiangming's words were like pearls of wisdom. Bai Minghuan frowned and said, "All right, then what do you want to teach us, Mr. Gong? What do you think we should do now?" "It's very simple. farm and rest. The whole East Sea is under our control, and we can send endless supplies from the Tianji Empire. In the long run, in a year at most, the supplies in the sky-reaching gorge will be used up, and Qianfeng's troops can only wait for death. In addition, we can contact the Blackstone Empire, and attack the Bronze Helmet mountain range controlled by Lin Muyu from the south, cutting off the source of iron and food for Winterfrost City. Then we won't have to worry about Lin Muyu not being defeated. Once Lin Muyu is defeated, the Lingdong province will be under our control. In this way we can open up all the provinces in the east and join forces with the Blackstone Empire, and slowly push forward. How many heads does Lin Muyu have for us to chop off? Gong Xiangming smiled and continued, but all of this needs time, at least a year, at most a decade. It all depends on whether you have the patience to wait for the victory to come. Yes. Bai Minghuan also smiled. Sir, your words are very enlightening. Thank you for your teachings. Come, let me toast to you. You are too polite, General. Gong Xiangming narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, General, someone sent us a message tonight. Dragon Knight Su Xiao and Dragon Knight Wang, who were killed when they were patrolling the steel wall. It was most likely Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi. In my opinion, we need to punish them. I suggest you write a letter to His Majesty, asking him to send an edict to Xikong Ming, ordering the Qinji Martial School to send a group of powerful warriors to the Shattered Tripod World. If possible, if Xikong Ming can come in person, then the result will be set. Bai Minghuan nodded. All right, I will do it tomorrow. At this time, in the Devil Palm Mountains thousands of miles away, it was all quiet. The meeting hall was brightly lit and a group of people were sitting there, but they were not drinking and playing like usual. On the captain's throne, Liu Bai was wearing a soft armor with the Bai Zhe emblem on his chest. That was the emblem of the Bai Zhe mercenary band. Right now, Liu Bai was no longer the same as before. His eyes were calm and composed, and an unprecedented confidence appeared on him. Beside him sat the beautiful Si Kongyao, wearing a delicate soft armor with the same emblem on her chest. Say it again. Liu Bai said lightly. A mercenary with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks said, Captain, the latest news is that the Cloud province of the Shattered Cauldron realm has fallen. The northern Duke Luo Xian has died in battle. He was killed by a battle angel called Dora. In addition, including the Clear Sky province, the Eight Desolations province, and the High Sky province, the Qin army of the Shattered Cauldron realm has already successively been occupied by 4 great provinces. How could this be? His Highness shouldn't be so weak. Liu Bai was a little distraught. Big brother won't be defeated so easily. Si Kongyao's bright eyes shone with a cold light as she said, It's just that the disparity is too great. Bu Yi, let's start attacking the surrounding counties tomorrow. The Bai Zhe mercenary band already has 100,000 people. We have the ability to attack the counties. In any case, most of the troops of the Blackstone Empire have gone to the Shattered Cauldron realm. The ones left behind will be guarding the imperial capital and the borders with the Celestial Empire. Yes. Liu Bai nodded and said, Young miss, is there any news from the Celestial Empire? His Highness said that he had a secret agreement with the second prince of the Celestial Empire, Qinyu. Now that the Shattered Cauldron realm is in danger, Qinyu shouldn't just sit by and watch. Si Kongyao nodded and said, Yes, Qinyu has stationed 1 million soldiers at the border, and he's forced the Qinji Empire to send the majority of the 2 great armies, the Lanji Corps and the Yanji Corps, over there. Even big sister Shang Qian's maternal grandfather, old General Zhang Qing, has gone to the border as well. Qinyu must be waiting for the news of Big Brother's defeat to arrive, and then he'll launch an attack. I just don't know if he'll attack the Tianji Empire first or the Darkstone Empire first. Then, when are we going to cause trouble? Cause trouble? That's right. If they don't cause trouble, why would they start fighting? Bai Mingyuan and Qinyu are both calm people. They won't use their weapons. As long as we are willing to cause trouble, there's no need to worry that they won't start fighting. However, Si Kongyao pouted and said, I won't do this. What? Liu Bai didn't understand. No matter what, I'm a citizen of the Tianji Empire. I can lead troops to attack the cities of the Blackstone Empire, but I can never make a move against the army of the Tianji Empire. Si Kongyao was unhappy and said, The only thing I'm worried about is that His Majesty Bai Mingyuan will order Grandfather to go to the Shattered Cauldron realm. If Grandfather makes a move, Big Brother will. Don't worry. Liu Bai smiled faintly and said, Old Master Xikong Ming is one of the top god emperors. He has eyes and ears everywhere. Do you think he doesn't know that you have such a good relationship with His Highness? I think that the old master definitely won't personally kill the person that his granddaughter likes. After all, he doesn't want you to hate him for the rest of your life. I didn't. Si Kongyao's face was completely red. Lu Bai glanced at her and said, "You don't even know how to lie. Learn more from me in the future. However, since Big Miss isn't willing to cause trouble, then let me do it. However, I need to use the people that you've roped in from the Tianji sect. Otherwise, ordinary Baizé mercenaries won't be able to complete that kind of mission. Then that's up to you. You're the leader, so you can deploy them yourself. Tomorrow we'll attack the cities first. I want to cause chaos in the Blackstone Empire from within and then collapse them. We'll do our best to help Big Brother reduce the pressure on the Shattered Cauldron realm." "Alright, that's exactly what I'm thinking." Chapter 867. To the north of the Qinling Mountains, the flames of war raged. On the contrary, the Lingnan region was exceptionally tranquil. After lying dormant for nearly 7 days, the Blackstone Empire's army didn't make any moves. Within the Xingtian Pass, banners covered the sky. 25,000 soldiers from the Xin Corps were already stationed in the pass. In addition, there were close to 90,000 soldiers under Xiangyu's command. Fortunately, Xin didn't order Xiangyu to change the flag and still allowed him to keep the Zine flower flag. There was an endless stream of people coming and going in the government office. There were messengers riding on war horses and personnel busy with logistics. In the brightly lit hall, Xin, Terralin, Xiangyu, Dingxi, and the others sat around a table with solemn expressions. After killing Yao Yuan, Dora killed Duke Luo Xan in the Cloud Province. Terralin frowned and said, "It seems that Dora has completely broken off relations with us and intends to go her own way. So be it." Xin's expression was indifferent. Xiangyu looked at Xin with a sharp gaze, but saw that her expression was normal, as if Luo Xian's death didn't matter at all. He couldn't help but ask, "Madam Xin, could it be that you really don't remember who Luo Xian is?" "Who's Luo Xian?" Xin asked in return. "He can be considered your uncle, the adopted son of Su Muyun, and Su Muyun is your maternal grandfather." Xin smiled and said, "Madam Xiangyu, let me say this again. I'm not Qinin. I'm Xin from the land of exile, the younger sister of the blazing angel Shi Yan. As for the Qinin you speak of, I have no impression at all. If I'm really Qinin, how can I not recognize my own homeland?" Ding Shi coughed and said, "Duke Nan, I think you should give up. Madam Xin might really not be the empress, or she really doesn't remember at all. It's useless to interrogate her like this." Xiangyu was silent. "What? Lord Xiangyu is regretting it?" Xin smiled and asked, "If I weren't Qinin, you wouldn't have opened the city gate and surrendered, would you?" "Yes." Xiangyu did not deny it and said, "I originally thought that Lord Xin was Her Highness the female empress, which was why I offered up the city pass. If Lord Xin wasn't Her Highness the female empress, then this trip of mine would be equivalent to treason." Terralin smiled, squinted her eyes and asked, "Xiangyu, now the situation is very clear. Lord Xin is not Qinin. According to the customs of the Qin people, should you draw your sword and commit suicide?" "I." Xiangyu was rendered speechless, his face alternating between pale and green. However, Xin smiled and said, "Terralin, don't tease him. Lord Xiangyu, even though I am not Qinin, I don't wish to see this land stained with blood. The Blackstone Empire is cruel and violent, and their actions are against my wishes. As long as I am here, I will not allow the Blackstone Empire to take another step forward. This is my promise to you." Xiangyu cupped his fists and said, "Then, I thank Lord Xin on behalf of the common people of Lingnan." Right at this moment, the sound of war drums could be heard from outside. "What's the matter?" Xin asked. A garrison officer dashed in swiftly and cupped his fists as he said, "Lords, the beast cavalries of the Darkstone Empire have already arrived outside the city, and the commander of the Dark Flame Army, Fuyu, is calling for a fight and asking us to go out and speak." The corner of Xin's mouth curled up. "Everyone follow me out to take a look." It was the middle of May and the weather was getting warmer. Flowers were blooming outside the city, and the whole mountain was covered with white wildflowers. There was even a faint fragrance that came with the wind, making people feel relaxed and happy. However, the Xingtian Pass was densely covered with flags, making it hard for people to distinguish which kind of wildflower the fragrance belonged to. On the city wall, Xin, Terralin, and the other battle angels floated out and stood majestically in the air. Xiangyu, Dingxi, and the other human generals appeared on the city gate with their guards, watching the invading enemy from afar. Below the city, at least 50,000 Blue Flame Army formed a square formation of 400 people. The cavalry was outside with spears and shields, and the archers were inside. The tip of the nearly 3-meter-long iron spear glowed with a faint cold light as it pointed straight at the city wall. The soldiers with heavy shields kept hitting the shields with their padeos and shouted in unison, "Blue Wolf! Blue Wolf! Blue Wolf!" The Blue Wolf was an aggressive wolf race. Moreover, they lived in packs and there would definitely be more than 100 of them. They were greedy, cunning, and had the same style as the Blackstone Empire. Therefore, the Blackstone Empire's army had always called themselves the Blue Wolves. Although they were few in number, they could stand on equal footing with the other two empires due to their cruelty and strength. At the front of the formation, Fuyu rode a black horse and held a steel blade in his hand. He looked at the city wall proudly and raised his blade. He shouted, "Open the city gate immediately. I can guarantee that there won't be a massacre. If anyone dares to resist, the day the city is breached will be the day of the massacre." Ding Shi's robe fluttered in the wind. He held his sword and said with a smile, "Fuyu, if you have the guts, come and attack the city. I really want to know if your dragon knights are really omnipotent." At this moment, Ding Shi's backing was the Angel Corps. There were 7 battle angels and 10,000 soldiers from the land of exile. He was not afraid of Fuyu's army at all. Moreover, Fuyu was Ding Shi's mortal enemy. In fact, Ding Shi wanted to take revenge for Long Qianlin, but he had to rely on Xin's power. Therefore it was best to provoke Fuyu. "Ding Shi, you defeated army, you have no right to speak to me," Fuyu shouted. At this moment, Xin, Terralin, and the others appeared in the sky above the city. Xin closed her eyes and the battle angel robe behind her fluttered in the wind. Her voice wasn't loud, but almost everyone in the fertile field could hear her clearly. "Fuyu, this divine heaven fortress has been occupied by me. Go somewhere else." Fuyu was startled. "Lord Xin?" He couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. He couldn't help but feel a little angry as he said, "Lord Xiyin, you're the battle angel sent by the Western God realm to help our heavenly pole continent. Why are you always helping those trash from the Shattered Cauldron realm?" "I'm not helping them. I just can't tolerate your killing and insolence." Xiyin gently raised her hand and drew the star's sword. She said, "Fuyu, take your men and leave immediately. If you don't leave in an hour, then I'll assume that you've decided to start a war with the Battle Angel Legion. I won't be polite then." Fuyu's eyes widened. What kind of logic is this? "Lord Xin, are you openly disobeying the will of Lord Claude?" "I am not. I am just protecting the common people as a god." Xin's closed eyes could vaguely see golden flames spreading. She murmured, "Gods should not be reduced to killing machines. You are gods, not demons. If you fall into the abyss and become demons, I will kill you on behalf of the light. Now if you want to attack the city, let's begin." Shi Yin's words left no room for negotiation. Fuyu and the other generals were dumbfounded. "Commander, she is too much." A captaincy couldn't help but say, "That's right, Commander. This woman is simply unreasonable. Why don't we give it our all? The Blue Flame Army has at least 150,000 soldiers. I don't believe that we can't kill a mere battle angel." The deputy commander seconded. Fuyu, on the other hand, had experienced Shi Yin's prowess and knew how terrifying the flaming eyes were. He used to be a valiant general, but now he was a little timid. He raised his hand and said, "There's no hurry. Immediately send someone to see Marshal Bailey Qin and ask him to decide if we should attack the city or not. Then what about our front line? Retreat 5 kilometers. Yes." The army below the city began to retreat slowly. Xiangyu couldn't help but exclaim happily, "They're retreating. Lord Xin is mighty. Just your aura alone is enough to make these wolves retreat without a fight." "It's just a temporary retreat." Xin's voice was indifferent. Ding Shi nodded as well, and his gaze was deep as he looked at the Darkstone Empire's army that covered the heavens and the earth. He said, "The Darkstone Empire has exhausted all its strength in this expedition. It's impossible for them to return without accomplishing anything. Lord Xiyin alone is unable to stop the Darkstone Empire's iron hooves of conquest. I think Bailey Qin will arrive soon. That's right." Xiangyu gripped his bloodthirst spear tightly and frowned. The situation was far more complicated than everyone had imagined. It was almost impossible for the Blackstone Empire to give up on conquering the Shattered Cauldron realm. In the air, a cool breeze ruffled Terralin's and Xin's hair. The two looked at each other in silence. After a long time, Terralin said, "Bailey Qin will probably be here soon." "That's right." Bailey Qin isn't that simple. He's much stronger than the other marshal, Bai Minghuan. Even though they are both god emperors, Bailey Qin has 87 grotto heavens while Bai Minghuan is only 62. The difference is like heaven and earth. Xin, do you really want to be enemies with a god like Bailey Qin? I don't know either. Xiyin nodded while her eyelashes fluttered lightly a few times. She said, but I can't just watch as the Darkstone Empire tramples over this place. I can't just watch as they swing their butcher's knives at those defenseless commoners. I think, what Jianghu and Ding she said might be true. I might really be someone else. But I just can't remember. Why do you say that? Terralyn was shocked. I can't explain it clearly. Xiyin bit her red lips and said, but I can feel that there's something in my bloodline that's connected to this land. In fact, when I was in Linghan City I felt a strange sense of déjà vu. I've been to that city before. On a certain day, on a certain year, but now I can only watch as that city is reduced to a sea of fire. She groaned in pain. Her body shivered and curled up. She no longer looked like the invincible level 7 golden-winged battle angel Sheen with the eyes of blazing dawn. Poor girl. Terralyn stepped forward and hugged her shoulders. You don't have to worry too much. No matter who you are or what your position is, we will always support you. At least, I, Terralyn, will always stand by your side because we will always be friends. Sheen nodded slightly. Thank you, Terralyn. Terralyn frowned. I really hope you're not her. Otherwise, I really don't know what crazy things I will do in the future. I'm afraid I will betray my family and disappoint my father. But I think I should do this. This is my godhood and one of the reasons why I support you. Killing is not what a god should do. Chapter 868. What? Sheen is stationed in the Divine Heaven Fortress. Bailey Qin stared at Fu Yu and his subordinates in astonishment as he stood in front of the map. What's going on? Why is Sheen standing in front of us? If we don't conquer the Divine Heaven Fortress, we won't be able to advance any further. This subordinate doesn't know either. Fu Yu frowned. It seems that Sheen is also interested in conquering this continent. She has gathered more than 20,000 people and called themselves the Sheen Legion. Currently, the Sheen Legion is the main force guarding the Divine Heaven Fortress. Does this battle angel want to be the ruler of the Shattered Cauldron realm? Bailey Qin couldn't help but laugh. Interesting. I wonder if Lord Claude of the Western Divine Realm will laugh or cry when he hears this news. Marshal, what should we do now? Dragon Rider Han Shu asked. This is not good. Bailey Qin frowned. If the battle angel really occupies the Divine Heaven Fortress, we can't do it by force. If the Blackstone Empire attacks the Divine Heaven Fortress, we will be accused of disobeying the Divine Realm. After all, the battle angel represents the will of the Lord Ruler. Moreover, the members of this battle angel team aren't simple. Terralyn is the successor of the Radiant clan, Lake is the son of the Darklight clan's patriarch, Zhou Shimin, Da Vinci, and the others aren't simple either. If we fight, we won't be fighting a battle angel team, but the major clans behind the Western Divine Realm. Their combined forces are enough to control half of the Western Divine Realm. Even the Lord Ruler will be wary of them. This. Han Shu frowned. If that's the case, then we can't conquer the Divine Heaven Fortress. We can only choose to attack the Dragon-Slaying Pass. However, that Su Jiantao is a bit tricky. He's a cunning guy. We already suffered a great loss in his hands. What's there to be afraid of? Bailey Qin laughed coldly. Don't forget, we still have a total of 200,000 soldiers in our hands, and we also have 82 Dragon Knights. With this kind of strength, we can completely crush the Dragon-Slaying Pass and kill all of Su Jiantao's troops. Marshal is wise. This subordinate will go and assemble the troops. We will attack Dragon-Slaying Pass in 2 days. Fu Yu was overjoyed. Don't worry. Bailey Qin's gaze was like lightning as he said, we can't be rash this time. We'll send a few deity-level experts into the Dragon-Slaying Pass in disguise. It won't be too late to make a move after getting a clear grasp of the situation. This time, I want to be absolutely safe. We definitely can't fall for that despicable Su Jiantao's tricks again. In addition, leave 10,000 men to guard outside the Xingtian Pass to restrain the Sheen Legion. Yes, Marshal. In the Western Divine Realm, a spiritual mountain shrouded in fog was radiating with light. The Western Divine Realm held a grand meeting every year. Clan heads from various planes, as well as some gods with outstanding cultivation, would gather here. Ruler Claude was precisely using this grand meeting to understand the movements of the various clans. After all, there were too many gods in the Western Divine Realm, and it was impossible to control them all. In the evening, Shi Yan appeared in the divine palace and said respectfully, "Lord Ruler, the 17 clan heads are already waiting in the guest hall. Alright, we'll head over now." Claude turned around and the light on his face slowly dissipated. To her astonishment, it was an extremely handsome male face. However, Shi Yan's gaze was indifferent. After following Claude for so many years, she was already used to this face. Moreover, with Shi Yan's cultivation, she had long since grown accustomed to the appearance of a physical person. No matter how handsome a man was in her eyes, he was just flesh and blood. The guest hall was located on the west side of the spiritual mountain where the Hall of Ruler was located. It was a very simple and unadorned building, but it had a long history. It could even be traced back to the War of the Gods 100,000 years ago. 13 god emperors had conspired to kill Ares, the king of all gods in the Western divine realm. At that time, Claude had been one of the 13 god emperors. When Claude, Shi Yan and Eva appeared in the guest hall, they saw that the hall was filled with lit candles. A dozen clan heads in white robes sat in their respective seats. Some of these clan heads were very young, while others were very old with white hair and beards. Only a few of them were young. Some of them had lived for so long that they could live forever, but their faces were still slowly aging over the course of tens of thousands of years. Everyone stood up and said respectfully, "Greetings, Lord Ruler. Greetings, Lord Blazing Angel Shi Yan, Lord Blazing Angel Eva." Dispense with the formalities. Claude gracefully sat down in the host's seat, smiled and said, "My lords, you've all worked hard. It is our duty to work for the divine capital." Everyone took their seats, with Shi Yan and Eva sitting on either side of Claude. Claude's gaze swept across the clan heads, and a handsome smile appeared on his face as he said, "I've invited everyone here for a secret meeting before the big meeting. In fact, there's only one thing." "Oh, please speak, Lord Ruler," a white-robed elder said with a smile. "Thank you, Lord Talon." Claude cleared his throat and said, "The last divine war was a few years ago when we went to war with East Heaven. Everyone should have heard of this matter. Many clans also participated in that divine war, and this divine war could only be considered a draw. We in East Heaven both lost many gods. East Heaven lost 3 emperor gods, 27 god kings, and nearly 1,000 ultimate gods, while we lost 18 four-winged angels and nearly 2,000 two-winged angels. After this war, divine capital can be said to have suffered heavy losses, and there is a shortage of talents. Therefore, the purpose of this meeting is to hope that the major clans can transfer a part of their strength to divine capital, under my direct command." This? Light Clan head Talon was a little hesitant, frowned and said, "Lord Ruler, there has been no news of my daughter Terilyn since she participated in the Chosen God trial. This subordinate only learned a few days ago that her name has disappeared from the Western Divine Realms roster. I don't know where my daughter went. Terilyn hasn't returned yet, and you want her again? This is a little inappropriate. It's not easy for the major clans to cultivate talents." A group of clan heads nodded. Yes. Another old clan head said, "My son Lake also disappeared after the Chosen God trial. I heard some rumors that they joined the Battle Angel squad and were exiled from the Western Divine Realm. I don't know if it's true?" The corner of Claude's mouth raised. "Yes, it's true. The Western Divine Realm has always cherished talents. Terilyn, Lake, and the others are the outstanding generation of the Western Divine Realm, so I exiled them and let them train outside the Divine Realm. I think the patriarchs will understand." His attitude was a little overbearing, implying that it didn't matter if they understood or not, but they had to understand. Talon was exasperated, but after a sigh, he remained silent. The other elders also had indifferent expressions on their faces. Claude's eyes turned cold. "What? When the divine capital needs the loyalty of the major clans, have you all retreated? Don't forget that no egg can remain intact when the nest is turned upside down. The 7 luminaries demon emperor of East Heaven is a crazy person. His desire to destroy the Western Divine Realm hasn't died. Once the divine capital is destroyed, do you think you can keep your fiefdoms?" Talon coughed. "Ruler, you misunderstand. It's not that we don't want to be loyal, but we really don't have much strength left." "Is that so?" Claude smiled. "But I heard that the major clans have produced many talents in recent years. Let's take Lord Talon's Radiance clan for example. In the past 3,000 years, you have produced a total of 7 god emperors, more than 100 god kings and countless godly venerables. Does this count as having no strength?" Talon's expression darkened. The other patriarchs were also silent. It was obvious that Claude was digging up their flesh, and it was something they couldn't refuse. After a while, Claude said, "The 17 clans here must each provide 20 god kings and 100 godly venerables to serve in the divine capital next month. You have to do it whether you want to or not. This is your responsibility as vassals." As he said that, Claude's eyes were like sharp swords. "Shi Yin, you will be in charge of accepting these talents. If there are any clans that haven't completed this task by the end of next month, Shi Yin, you can lead the divine capital army to annihilate them. Even if you have to destroy an entire realm, it's not like you haven't done this before." Shi Yin nodded. "Yes, my lord." Blazing Angel Shi Yin was a name that made many clans tremble in fear. When the Yuehua clan openly rebelled and colluded with the Northern Heaven realm, it was Shi Yin who led the angel army to annihilate them. The hundreds of gods of the Yuehua clan were all killed, and even the 3 realms under their seal were annihilated. Shi Yin had a faint smile on her face as she said softly, "Elder Talon, your daughter Terralyn and my sister Sheen are good friends. Please don't make things difficult for me." Talon's body trembled slightly. "Yes, I will. I only hope that Lord Ruler can protect my daughter and let Terralyn return safely." "Don't worry, Lord Talon. Terralyn is a future talent of the Western Divine Realm. I can't not cherish her." "Then thank you, Lord Ruler." The leaders of the various clans all expressed their willingness to contribute their talents. Claude was full of smiles. This was exactly what he wanted to see. Shi Yin, however, frowned slightly and remained silent. She seemed to have guessed that Claude was going to do something crazy again. Late at night, the meeting ended. Claude returned to the temple and brought with him a beautiful 2-winged angel. She didn't remember the girl's name, but Shi Yin knew that she was Claude's woman. There would be new angels serving Claude every day. This was an open secret. In the sky the stars were dim. Shi Yin and Eva sat at the top of the Spirit Mountain, their 4 snowy legs kicking the clouds in the air. What is the Lord Ruler doing? Gathering so many people. Eva didn't understand. Someone else is going to be exiled, Shi Yin said. Huh. Eva was stunned. It can't be, right? Does the Lord want to exile millions of divine kings and thousands of godly venerables to the celestial pole continent? What else? Shi Yan's eyes were like water. There hasn't been any news from the celestial pole continent. The Lord is getting impatient. The Shattered Cauldron realm has already become a mortal battlefield between the Eastern and Western divine realms. Pray, Eva, that we won't be exiled. Eva. Chapter 869. On the 15th day of the 5th lunar month, after 6 days of a large-scale and roundabout battle, the 50,000 cavalrymen under Feng Jixing arrived at the Yunzhong Sluice in a grandiose manner. On top of the Yunzhong Sluice stood a fortress that had been around for decades. It was the Yunzhong Pass, and the purpose of Feng Jixing's trip this time was the Yunzhong Pass. Only by guarding the Yunzhong Pass could they stop the iron hooves of Long Ji's army from continuing to invade the south. Feng Jixing had no other choice. Raising her head to look at the towering fortress, Luo Yu could not help but furrow her brows and said, I wonder how long we will have to stay here. Until we have accumulated enough power to go on a northern expedition and recover our lost land. Feng Jixing's gaze was deep as he said, Enter the pass and pass down my order to take over the entire Yunzhong Pass. Send a letter to all the prefectures and prefectures of the Yunzhong province. Take in all those who have yet to surrender or have already surrendered, as long as they come to seek refuge in the Yunzhong Pass. We cannot let the hearts of the people of the empire be bitterly disappointed. Yes, Your Highness. The Yunzhong Sluice was adjacent to the ancient Cloud Road, which was the lifeline of transportation. A large number of iron hooves entered the fortress from the ancient Cloud Road. The general guarding the city was an old subordinate of Lin Muyu, who was once a Gold Star instructor of the Divine Temple. Now he had become a general guarding the city. When he saw Feng Jixing's arrival, he did not hesitate to hand over the city to him. To the soldiers of the empire, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were the 2 gods of war, supreme existences. Feng Jixing stepped onto the city wall and gazed into the distance to the north. Ignoring his weariness, he continued to issue orders for the defense of the city and recruited people to repair the city wall. After all, there had been no war between Yunzhong province and Lanyan city for many years. Much of Yunzhong Pass's city wall, which stretched for dozens of miles, had been in disrepair for a long time. If it was not repaired, it would collapse at the first blow. Leaning against the cold stone wall, Feng Jixing looked at the endless flow of the Daojiang River from the north. The current was rapid, and in the middle of the river, there was a constant stream of gigantic heads. These were the frost-armored horned dragons. They lived in the Daojiang River's Yunzhong province, and for decades, no one was willing to go near the Daojiang River. These frost-armored horned dragons were huddled together below the sluice gate, roaring. It was this huge sluice gate that prevented them from going south. If they all went south, then the southern fishermen and farmers would suffer a calamity. Your Highness, do you have any other instructions? Luo Yu asked in a low voice. No more. Feng Jixing felt a little helpless. He frowned and looked at the rapid Daojiang. After a few seconds he said, Luo Yu, how is the defense of the Seven Seas province? Feng Lan is not a good person. After taking Wuyu City, the next step is probably Seven Seas City. If we lose the two great cities in the north, we will be the sinners of the empire, an eternal shame. Rest assured, Your Highness. The Seven Seas province is temporarily guarded by General Qin Xiaoli. A few days ago he began to gather the troops of all the provinces in the province. Including the troops of the headquarters, there are at least 150,000 people. The mountain range between the Seven Seas province and Yunzhong province is easy to defend and hard to attack. With General Qin Xiaoli's ability, I believe there will be no problem. Yes. Feng Jixing muttered to himself, it's been a long time since I've seen Qin Xiaoli. I wonder how he is now. That's right, send out the War Eagle scouts to search for the scattered Steel Blade army and bring them back to Yunzhong Pass. Send as many as you can. Also, send messengers to all the prefectures and prefectures of Heaven's Pivot Province. Order more than 70% of the prefectural army to come to Yunzhong Pass and await my orders. Yes, Your Highness. Wait. Is there anything else, Your Highness? Feng Jixing pondered for a moment, then said, order people to rub 100 war banners with the word Qin on them and distribute them to all the divisions in Yunzhong Pass. I want the whole army to know whose army we belong to and who we are fighting for. Yes, Your Highness, Your Highness. Feng Jixing could not help but take a deep breath as he watched Luo Yu leave in a hurry. It was a wise decision to ask Luo Yu to come over from Lin Muyu's side back then. Otherwise, how could he have such a capable general now? As for Zhang Wei, it was fine for him to charge and break through enemy lines. He had the air of a general, but it was far from enough for him to do some administrative work. The Empire's military had always valued military strength over civil affairs, but there were many drawbacks. If the Empire really did not fall after this war, it would be time to pay more attention to civil affairs. After all, the money and finances that Qin Jin had accumulated for so many years had almost all been used up in these 10 years. At this moment, the Empire's treasury could be said to be empty and the entire country was exhausted. It was not until the afternoon that the voice of a messenger woke Feng Jixing up from his dream. Your Highness, the remnants of the Steel Blade army have returned. Ah. Feng Jixing flipped over and fell from the chair. He had not slept for 5 consecutive days and was too tired. He only activated his divine power when he was about to hit the ground. With a wave of his palm, his body floated up and he opened the door. He asked, who is back? Your Highness, it is the Steel Blade army that followed Commander Luo Xan out of the city to meet the enemy. They were led by Qin Yong, the commander of the right army of the Steel Blade army. After they were ambushed, they were chased by Long Ji's army twice and suffered heavy losses. They are now outside the city. General Zhang Wei asked me to report and ask if they should be allowed to enter Yunzhong Pass. Alright, I will go over now. Feng Jixing stepped forward. A flash of lightning flashed, but he had already disappeared from where he was. He had broken through the void and left. Pa. Under the shade of the willow tree on the ancient path in the clouds, a flash of lightning burst forth. With a sway of his body, Feng Jixing appeared several lis away. When he appeared, Zhang Wei and the others behind him were slightly stunned. However, they soon calmed down. Everyone in the Imperial Guards knew that Feng Jixing was a divine realm expert and did not find it strange. However, on the ancient path, a group of defeated soldiers stood there in an extremely dismal and solemn manner. The person at the very front leaped down from his battle horse. His armor was no longer complete, and there were saber marks on his arms and chest, stained with blood. The battle saber in his hand was also filled with cracks, and his face seemed as if it had been smeared with blood. Qin Yong was a distant descendant of the Qin royal family. His ancestors were of the ancestral bloodline, but in this generation they were getting further and further away from the direct line of descent. As a result, Qin Yong was originally just a minor commandant of a province. However, this minor commandant had relied on his own capabilities to slowly climb up to the position of the right army's commander through his battle achievements. All troops, get off your horses and pay your respects to Prince Xen. Qin Yong let out a loud bellow, and the soldiers behind him, who seemed as if they had just been fished out from a pool of blood, got off their horses. They performed the Empire's military salute in unison, kneeled on the ground with their right knee, and placed their left hand naturally on their left knee. They lowered their heads respectfully. This was the Empire's military salute, and it would only be used when meeting with marquises and the Emperor. Rise. Feng Jixing's voice was resolute and decisive as he said, "Perform the military salute. I, Feng Jixing, am a soldier." Yes. Qin Yong stood up and led the soldiers behind him in saluting. They cupped their fists, holding onto their weapons with their right hands while their left hands covered the back of their right hands. They appeared respectful and mighty. Feng Jixing also saluted them. This was the respect between soldiers. "General Qin Yong, how many more people do you have?" he asked. Qin Yong's body trembled. "Your Highness, when we left the city, there were 50,000 men who followed Duke Xen. Among them, close to 20,000 were my brothers from the Right Corps. After we were ambushed, we lost 50% of our men. I only brought 10,000 men with me and fought our way out. After that, we were hunted down twice 3 and 5 days ago, leaving only over 7,000 brothers. Along the way we lacked rations and many of our brothers were injured or died of hunger. I'm incompetent and over 1,000 of our men died of hunger. Many of our war horses have been slaughtered, but are there no villages or towns along the way?" Feng Jixing said fiercely, "Why didn't you resupply rations in the villages or towns?" "Your Highness, Qin Yong trembled and once again knelt on the ground saying, "I'm incompetent, but the Empire's military law states that we mustn't disturb the commoners. The villages and towns along the way have already been plundered by the Tianji Empire's soldiers. Many commoners have lost their homes and don't even have food to eat. How can I command my troops to plunder? Those brothers from the Right Corps who died of hunger would rather die than plunder commoners. Your Highness, please punish them." "Good." Feng Jixing's eyes were a little blurry and his voice was a little shaky. "Good job, General Qin Yong. This is the model of the Empire's soldiers. A year ago, His Highness, you reformed the military system and reorganized the military salute. The left hand holding the lid is the hand holding the soldier. The meaning is bravery doesn't cause chaos, and strength doesn't violate the law. General Qin Yong, you are more qualified to be a soldier of the Qin family than Su Zhangyan, who surrendered." "What?" Qin Yong was stunned. "Deputy Commander Su Zhangyan, he surrendered?" "Otherwise." Feng Jixing's face was cold as he said, "Su Zhangyan didn't resist and easily gave up Muyu City. This is a disgrace to the Empire and also a disgrace to the Su family. Qin Yong, I appoint you as the new commander of the Iron Blade Army. From today onwards, you will receive the scattered soldiers of the Iron Blade Army that have returned from Yunzhong Pass. The soldiers that we recruit will also be used to replenish the Iron Blade Army. Can you be a good commander?" Qin Yong was stunned. In an instant he was promoted from the commander of the Right Corps to the Iron Blade Army. This promotion came too quickly, but he didn't have time to be happy. His heart was filled with revenge. He cupped his fists and said, "This general obeys. Let's enter the pass. Zhang Wei, arrange a camp for the brothers of the Iron Blade Army. Immediately send orders to the Spirit Fire Department to cook. Let everyone have a full meal first." Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, "Yes, Your Highness." Luo Yu stood beside Feng Jixing and watched the defeated soldiers of the Iron Blade Army enter the pass. Her heart was indescribably heavy, just like Feng Jixing's. Feng Jixing had transferred the last 50,000 cavalrymen from the Imperial Guards, Longdan Army Camp, and God Might Battalion to reinforce Muyu City, but he didn't expect this result. The result of 10 famous generals dying on the battlefield could be lost just because of a single general who surrendered. 3 days later, the remnants of the Iron Blade Army gathered from the mountains, fertile fields, and jungles of Yunzhong Province. In the end, there was a troop of 30,000 people. People couldn't help but wring their hands. The Iron Blade Army, which used to have 200,000 people, now only had this one person left. Phrases like Northern Iron Lion, Empire's First Army, and Su family's mighty army, all became fleeting clouds. Chapter 870. Good news. Good news. The Warhawk scout flew into the meeting hall with a letter in his hand. His face was full of joy as he said loudly, "Your Highnesses, Princess Shi, a report of victory from the Demon Clan's headquarters in the sky-piercing gorge in Ba Huang Province." Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Zhen Yifan, and Su Yu all looked up, waiting for the good news to be read. The War Eagle scout was a young soldier, His face was still childish. Your Highness's good news? I know, read it. Lin Muyu smiled. Yes. He quickly opened the letter and said, Tong Tian Gorge, Qian Feng reported that Bai Minghuan personally led 100,000 troops to attack Tong Tian Gorge. The celestial race used 10,000 Southern Iron Cavalry, 40,000 human reserves, 3 giant flying snakes, and 9,000 armor demons to fight the enemy for 4 days. Both sides suffered heavy losses, and the Flowing Spirit Army was forced to retreat. The army has already returned to Tong Tian City. Good. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. This was the only good news she had received these days. She clenched her fists and said excitedly, Qian Feng did not disappoint me. When did this news come? Last night. The War Eagle scout said, I flew back after receiving the letter. General Qian Feng also asked me to tell your highness that he thanked you for the celestial race's battle robes. Okay, I got it. You can go to the Spirit Fire Department and have a good meal. Yes, thank you, your highness. The soldier left excitedly. His joy was easy to understand. The Qin Empire had lost many battles, and they needed a victory to boost their morale. Although Qian Feng's troops did not win, they were able to delay the Flowing Spirit Army's 100,000 troops at Tong Tian Gorge. This in itself was already a victory. Your highness, don't be so happy. Bai Minghuan could not take down Tong Tian Gorge, so his next target is very likely to be our Luo River estuary. Jin Yifan coughed and poured cold water on Lin Muyu. Yes. Lin Muyu didn't deny it. Instead, she asked, how many soldiers do we have at the Luo River estuary? Tang Xiaoxi explained with great familiarity, all the major armies have removed all their cavalry and given them to Commander Feng Jixing to take away. Right now, the military strength at the Luo River estuary is very worrying. The Longdan Army camp has 50,000 elite infantrymen, the God Might Battalion has 20,000 elite soldiers, the National Garrison Army has 17,000 soldiers, and Antlian has 8,000 soldiers from the Zither Dragon Army. The entire Luo River estuary has less than 100,000 soldiers. After the battle at the mouth of the Luo River, the demon army from the Endless Forest had been reduced from 200,000 to 60,000. 3 days ago, Tang Xiaoxi had ordered the demon army to return to the Endless Forest. After all, this was a war between humans. They couldn't let the entire demon army die. That would be too unfair to them. 100,000 is enough. Lin Muyu twirled the dry brush in her hand and said, as long as we don't go out, Bai Minghuan can't do anything to us. Is there any news from the other places? How many soldiers are there in each place? Su'er said, General Feng should be at Yunzhong Pass now. He has 50,000 elite soldiers there. Then there's Seven Seas City. Qin Xiaoli has 150,000 soldiers. Then there's Lingnan. The 70,000 soldiers from Mingshan province that Xiangyu took with him should still be there. Qin Xiaoli? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. I didn't expect Qin Xiaoli's army to be the one with the most soldiers in our Qin army. Let's hope he can defend the Seven Seas City. Xan Yifan's gaze was cold as he said, the trader's Longji Corps is in Muyu City, which is less than 1,000 miles away from Seven Seas City. Their cavalry will be able to reach Seven Seas City in about 2 days. The Longji Corps has God State experts like Fang Lan and Lin Tongtian. I'm worried that if they carry out an assassination mission, Qin Xiaoli's life will be in danger. His words were like a knife stabbing into Lin Muyu's heart. In reality, everyone could think of this, but the Qin Empire simply didn't have enough God State experts. Everyone knew that they had to protect Qin Xiaoli, the Seven Seas Province's commander-in-chief, but it didn't seem right for anyone to go. After a while, Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said in a low voice, Seven Seas Province was Grandpa's land and it's also our Tang family's land. I think I should go. I'll leave tonight, and should be able to reach Seven Seas City tomorrow morning. With me there, it won't be easy for them to assassinate Qin Xiaoli. Moreover, I can command the Seven Seas City's army. No. Lin Muyu immediately rejected and said, I've seen how powerful Lin Tongtian is. Xiaoxi, you're definitely not his match. I can't let you take the risk alone. His concern warmed Tang Xiaoxi's heart. She smiled and said, but Mu, if I don't go, who else can? We all know that I'm the most suitable person to go. It seemed that Tang Xiaoxi had made up her mind to go. Then, let's send one more person. Lin Muyu glanced at the people on both sides of the table and said, Oh Yan, you and Xiaoxi will go to Seven Seas City together. The two of you must be together at all times. If the two of you work together, Lin Tongtian will definitely not be your match. Isn't it a little inappropriate? Oh Yan was a little hesitant. Why isn't it appropriate? A blush appeared on Ouyang Yan's beautiful face. Everyone knows how dangerous Seven Seas City is. Lin Tongtian is known as the #1 dragon rider of the Tianji Dragon Cavalry. If something were to happen to him, Princess Shi and I would both die for our country. Wouldn't His Highness you lose 2 women at the same time? How tragic would that be? Just thinking about it makes my chest ache. The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth twitched. When did you become my woman? Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao could not help but burst into laughter. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "All right, it's decided. Ouyang Yan, you and Xiaoxi will go to Seven Seas City together. You must be careful. Other than that, spiritual scholar Su Hao." "Yes." Su Hao bowed politely. "What other heavenly tomes do you have? Prepare some for Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan. With the help of the heavenly tomes, I believe they will be able to gain the upper hand." "Yes, successor. I still have 2 divine tomes and 5 heavenly tomes. Give them to Princess Shi." "All right." In the middle of the night, 2 figures turned into streams of light and disappeared into the western horizon. Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan had gone to Seven Seas Province. In the spacious courtyard, Lin Muyu was dressed in a white royal forest armor. He stood there alone with a trace of loneliness in his eyes. He also hoped that Tang Xiaoxi could stay by his side. However, the world always made fools of people and it was difficult to get what one wanted. The threats that Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan faced were not just Lin Tongtian, Fang Lan and the Dragon Knights. There was also the battle angel sent by the Heaven Realm. That 4-winged battle angel Dora. With Tang Xiaoxi's current cultivation, what would happen if she met Dora? The only consolation was that Tang Xiaoxi had broken through level 30 and comprehended the God's Wall with the help of the Demon Spirit Stone and the Broken Godhead. In addition to the increase in demonic power from the 9-tailed transformation, her strongest combat power was around level 50 Grotto Heaven. However, it was said that Dora was a 4-winged black-winged battle angel. An angel's wings could also greatly increase combat power. As such, Tang Xiaoxi was still at a disadvantage in terms of strength. Ouyang Yan had the strength of a god king. After recasting her godhead, she should also have the strength of level 50 Grotto Heaven. However, Lin Muyu had no idea how much she could help Tang Xiaoxi. He really wanted to send Wu Tong, Zheng Jian, and the others to the Seven Seas Province, but he couldn't. The threat that Lingdong Province faced was not only from Baiming Huan in the north, but also from the sea. Ever since the Blue Wind Sea battle, the coastline had been completely lost. The coastal cities were harassed by pirates every day. Most of these pirates were from the scattered mercenary groups of the Blackstone Empire. They were cruel and ruthless. Someone had to deal with them. At this moment, the sound of hurried footsteps came from the entrance of the courtyard. It was Wei Chou. "Your Highness, there's news from Changfeng County, north of Winterfrost City. A mercenary group from the Blackstone Empire has occupied Changfeng County this morning. There are about 3,000 of them and they're robbing and killing everywhere. They killed the county governor, occupied the county capital, and even violated the 3 concubines of the county governor. Should we send troops?" "No need." Lin Muyu waved his hand. "The main force of the Longdan army camp must stay at the Luo River estuary stronghold. I'll go to Changfeng County. It's just 3,000 people. I'll be back tomorrow morning." "Yes. Be careful, Your Highness. Do you need me to go with you?" "No need. You stay at the Luo River estuary. What about Wu Tong and Zheng Jian?" "This morning Your Highness sent them to Chiluo County to exterminate the pirates." "Did Your Highness forget?" "Oh, I didn't forget. All right, I'll go to Changfeng County. I'll leave this place to you." "Yes." Before he finished speaking, Lin Muyu had already disappeared. The speed at which he broke through the void was extraordinarily fast. Wei Chou was a little dumbfounded. After cultivating the Ghost God Lattice, Wei Chou had also stepped into the first sky of the immortal state. However, his ability to break through the void paled in comparison to Lin Muyu's. In fact, none of the experts that Wei Chou had seen before, including Chu Chu, Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan, could break through the void as quickly and quietly as Lin Muyu. Late at night, Chiluo County, a city on the eastern coast of the empire. The total population of Chiluo County was about 30,000. More than 80% of the city's population made a living by selling Chiluo conchas. Chiluo conchas were a type of giant snail with delicious meat. They were about the size of a fist and could be used as dry rations after being cooked. After the Blue Wind Sea battle, the people of Chiluo County no longer dared to go out to sea to fish. They didn't want to leave the city where their ancestors lived. However, danger still arrived. As dozens of large ships approached the shore, more than 3,000 mercenaries from the Blackstone Empire came ashore and killed more than 200 guards of the county. They had already regarded this small city as their own territory. In front of the county, a group of people were crying endlessly. There were about 5,000 people, but they were surrounded by mercenaries with torches in their hands. They were trembling all over and didn't dare to imagine what would be waiting for them. At the top of the stairs, a man in black armor with a saber in his hand slowly walked down. Golden light shone beneath his feet, making him look like a celestial being. He grinned and said, "Pick out all the young and beautiful girls between the ages of 16 and 25. Chapter 871. Cries and cries for help echoed in the crowd. Mercenaries armed with swords and knives entered the crowd and carefully selected. Soon, dozens of young women were picked out and dragged out by a group of mercenaries. "Let go of my daughter. Let go of my daughter." The old father's eyes were bloodshot. His palms were covered in crisscrossed cuts, the result of long periods of casting nets. Every cut was filled with pain as well as the heavy harvest of the nets. Fishermen knew how to be grateful to the sea, but they didn't understand how terrifying the desires of animals could be. Scram! A mercenary walked up and kicked the father to the ground. The mercenary captain raised his warblade and walked up, the corners of his lips curling up slightly. His boots had already stepped on the old father's back, and the faint sound of bones breaking could be heard. The father's forehead was covered in sweat from the pain, but he still shouted, Let go of my daughter. I'm willing to trade my life for her." However, no one paid any attention to his screams or his daughter's helpless tears. "Draw your bows." The mercenary captain raised his hand, and hundreds of mercenaries immediately drew their bows, pointing them straight at the commoners in the square. He smiled faintly and said, "My name is Song of the North Flow, a descendant of the famed General North Flow Lang, the current captain of the North Flow mercenary group. I've come all the way from the Blackstone Empire for the sake of making a living. Fellow elders, please take care of me, a person who has come all the way from afar. Men, bring out the name list of the prefectural city and invite the local nobles here." A gentle-looking mercenary held up the name list and said, "Salt merchant Su Gu, snail merchant Zhang Qian, brocade merchant Zhou Xin, lumber merchant Wang Lei, house builder O Yechi." He read out a long list of names, and Song of the North Flow's eyes swept across the crowd. Finally, the local traders pointed them out one by one, and the dozens of local merchants were invited to the bottom of the steps. "You are the salt merchant Su Gu?" Song of the North Flow lifted the chin of an old man and said, "I've heard that the salt merchants of the Shattered Cauldron realm are very profitable, and I'm sure you've earned quite a bit as well. Look, my army has come from afar and we need to redistribute our rations and weapons. This is a very large sum of money. Since the Qin army can't protect you, then we, the North Flow mercenary band, will protect them. However, you'll have to pay us soldiers enough tax. Men, find out how much this salt merchant needs to pay." "My lord, you have to pay 10,000 Jianghu coins." "All right, 10,000 gold grim coins it is." Song of the North Flow sneered, "Su Gu, did you hear that? Immediately have your family prepare 10,000 soldiers as a tax. Otherwise, your head will be hung on the city gates tomorrow morning." Su Gu's face was ashen. Sir, I'm just a salt merchant from a small city. How could I have so many Jianghu coins? I don't have it. Get lost." Song of the North Flow sent Su Gu flying with a kick. His eyes were cold as he said, "I don't care if you have it or not. If you don't have 10,000 gold grim coins, prepare to be stabbed. Don't be afraid. I, Song of the Northern Liuha, am also a descendant of a prestigious clan. I don't do such filthy things. Since I've come to Chi Luo Commandery, I plan to stay here for a long time. You're also my fellow countrymen. Zhang Qian, don't tremble. Explain yourself. How much did you donate as a soldier? How much do you want to pay for the soldiers?" Zhang Qian was a middle-aged man. His face was ashen. "Sir, I don't have any money either. Chi Luo Prefecture is a small city, and most of the local currency is silver grim coins. Most people have never seen gold grim coins in their entire lives. How can there be any profits? Cut the crap. I'm here to talk to you. Do you really have to force me?" Song of the North Flow grabbed Zhang Qian's collar and looked at the timid girl behind him. "Look, we're fellow countrymen. I don't want to fall out with you, do I? Well, you have a daughter?" Zhang Qian's face was ashen. "Sir, I'll prepare 10,000 gold grim coins." "Too late. I want 10,000 gold grim coins and I want your daughter too. From now on, we're no longer just fellow countrymen. You're my father-in-law. Don't be afraid, stand still, ha. Song of the North Flow raised his blade and walked towards the third person. The crowd was already filled with the sound of crying. Stop crying. He was extremely impatient. Archers, if anyone cries again, just shoot them to death. Yes, sir. Before he even finished speaking, some of the archers who were as bloodthirsty as their lives couldn't help but attack. Immediately, a few miserable cries rang out from the crowd. Someone had already been shot through the heart and died. Fear surged through the crowd like a tide, and everyone began to flee. Go back. The saber-wielding mercenaries began to hack and slash, and in an instant, nearly 100 people lost their lives. The citizens of the prefecture had never seen such a scene of heads rolling on the ground before. All of them were pale with fright, trembling as they returned to the center of the plaza. All of you stop. Song of the North Flow sneered. Don't start fighting and killing at the drop of a hat. I've long since taught you brats to win people over with virtue and virtue. Did you all turn a deaf ear to that? Continue, demand the soldier tax. Yes, sir. Mercenaries had crossed thousands of miles to the shattered cauldron realm in search of two things: money and women. Right now, Song of the North Flow wanted these two things as well. However, he boasted that he was from a prestigious family, so although he was much more cultured than the Blackstone Empire's regular army, he wasn't much better. When the girls who had been surrounded saw someone die, they couldn't help but weep softly. However, they were afraid of being killed, so they could only hold back their tears. Cry, 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 all you know is to cry. You've pissed me off. Song of the North Flow suddenly turned around and swept his blade across. Immediately, a red line appeared on the neck of one of the girls. Blood splattered everywhere and she fell to her knees. She had never thought that her life would end like this. Accept your fate. Song of the North Flow looked coldly at the crowd and said, the Qin army will soon be defeated. They've suffered crushing defeats in both the north and the south. Do you still place your hopes on the Qin family? Stop dreaming. The Qin family can't even protect themselves. Do you think they'll protect you border commoners? Ha ha ha, obediently become my people and you might be able to live. The commoners wailed and the girls trembled. A living person had turned into a corpse in the blink of an eye. Fresh blood splattered on the steps, creating a poignant red. Lumber merchant Wang lay 10,000 gold coins. Song of the North Flow's voice was extremely cold. Wang Lei was an old man. His entire body trembled as he said, Sir, I don't earn more than 100 gold coins a year from selling lumber. Where am I going to get 10,000? How you do it is up to you. I don't care. I didn't. The old man trembled. You didn't? Song of the North Flow raised his blade again. Then I'll send you to the afterlife. Tears streamed down the old man's face. His voice trembled as he said, Ancestors of the Qin Empire, Your Majesty, Your Highnesses, has the world really changed? Who will protect the commoners? Who will fulfill the Qin family's promise to the world? You still think the Qin family will save you? Die, you lowly old thing. The blade sliced through the air, glowing with a faint golden light. Everyone held their breaths. They were terrified. The mercenaries were going to kill again. However, just as the blade was about to cleave down on the old man's neck, a powerful aura suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It was a spatial ripple that could shatter the void. A white figure flew over. With a clang, sparks flew everywhere. A person appeared before Song of the North Flow and the old man, grabbing the blade with a single hand. The night breeze blew. His back was to the commoners in the square. His white cloak swayed gently, and the golden-purple flowers on it could be seen clearly. Enough. Enough. He spoke word by word as he stared at North Flow Song. His gaze was incomparably terrifying, causing North Flow Song, a deity of the 21st ecclesiastical layer, to tremble uncontrollably. His gaze was filled with towering rage, which transformed into a killing intent that radiated outwards. The commoners were also stunned. They recognized the insignia on the cloak. It was the insignia of the Qin family. He's here, he's here. Everyone knew that their savior had arrived, but they didn't know who it was. Who do you think you are? Song of the North Flow laughed coldly. He suddenly flipped his wrist, and the blade began to spin rapidly, shaking off Lin Muyu's grasp. It moved extremely quickly, and the blade quickly turned into 3 consecutive slashes that landed on Lin Muyu's arm. However, Lin Muyu didn't move. Clang, 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 sparks flew everywhere. The blade was knocked away by a golden barrier. Song of the North Flow was dumbfounded. That was a divine wall. A cultivator with a divine wall was at least a Saint Martial King. This plane actually had a Saint Martial King? In that instant, the confidence in his heart was on the verge of collapse. He hurriedly retreated and roared, "Attack together! Destroy him!" However, it was too late. The night sky suddenly turned deathly white, as if a layer of frost had spread across the ground. At the same time, a powerful domain descended from the sky, making it difficult for everyone to move. Even breathing became extremely difficult. Lin Muyu knew how powerful Song of the North Flow was, so she decided to end this with a single move. "All phenomena of heaven and earth, heed my call." A golden elephant wheel appeared beneath Lin Muyu's feet. Elephant white side. Boom. The golden elephant wheel swept past, directly tearing Song of the North Flow's body into a pile of flesh and blood. At the same time, Elephant Whiteside's domain power was fully activated. The invisible elephant art was activated, and all the mercenaries within range of the domain screamed as their bodies exploded and died. The pressure of the domain was enough to kill them. The other mercenaries all paled when they saw that the situation was bad. They all abandoned their weapons and fled. This young man was no longer a general of the Qin family. He was practically a god of death. In the blink of an eye, all the mercenaries had fled. Lin Muyu looked at the corpses of the commoners on the ground and knew that she had come too late. "My lord, you are. The house builder asked with a trembling voice. "I'm Lin Muyu." "Heavens!" The house builder knelt down. "Greetings, King Qin. King Qin has personally come to save us." The commoners and the girls beside Lin Muyu all knelt down as well. Seeing everyone like this, Lin Muyu felt indescribably uncomfortable. She said, "All of you rise. Leave the coastal cities and go to Winter Frost City. The army there is enough to protect you." The commoners all stood up and looked at the legendary King Qin. No one would have thought that the King Qin would be so amiable and approachable. However, the crowd began to cry. Those who had lost their loved ones also began to cry. Lin Muyu had the sovereign status. His EC was filled with the sorrow and blessings of the people. He could feel everything. What was a god? It was a gift of power and also a responsibility. Looking at the crowd, Lin Muyu slowly took a step back and knelt on one knee. She gave everyone a military salute and said in a low voice, "The Qin family is sorry for making you all suffer. However, I promise that as long as I am alive, I will definitely recover the lost land and return peace to the people of the empire. I will let the people of the empire live with dignity." As the sovereign of the Shattered Cauldron realm, King Qin was actually kneeling to her. How could anyone not be moved? The commoners all knelt down and their sorrowful cries became one. Chapter 872. A chilly breeze spread through the forest. Tens of thousands of citizens of Qi Luo Prefecture, led by a commandant, left the city with their families and headed in the direction of Winter Frost City. Qi Luo Prefecture could no longer be lived in. This small coastal city would soon be affected by the flames of war and would be repeatedly harassed by pirates. Staying here would only mean waiting for death. Sobbing sounds could be heard everywhere. How sorrowful it was to leave one's home. Everyone knew that leaving one's home was especially miserable. Who would leave their home unless they had no other choice? In the forest several kilometers away, the clamorous sound of horse hooves could be heard. It was the escapees of the North Stream mercenary group. Approximately 2,000 cavalrymen and 500 infantrymen had left Qi Luo Prefecture in a hurry. Their leader, Song of the North, had been killed by an even stronger expert. This was like a nightmare that lingered in everyone's hearts. At this moment, these mercenaries didn't even have the time to carry the wealth and women they had plundered. They had already left the spoils of War City in a hurry. "Vice Captain, are we really going to leave just like this?" A man with 2 scars on his face gripped his saber unwillingly and said, "That person is only one person. Why should we be afraid of him? Everyone, let's attack together. I don't believe that we can't kill him. Vice Captain, even you are an expert with the cultivation of a Saint Martial Venerable. Why are you afraid of him?" The Vice Captain was a cold-looking young man. As he spurred his horse forward, he licked his lips and said, "That person isn't as simple as you think. Let's just forget about it. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Sooner or later we'll get even with him. When that time comes, I'll cut him into 1,000 pieces." The wind swirled and howled like a ghost. The galloping crowd was immediately startled. The cavalrymen at the front all stopped their horses in unison. Lightning flashed in the sky and a figure wearing a white robe appeared. It was Lin Muyu. "You." The vice captain's face was filled with shock and he said, "Are you trying to kill us all?" Under the moonlight, Lin Muyu's handsome face appeared extremely clear and bright. He raised his hand and slowly pulled out the Ice Origin sword. His eyes were cold as he spoke clearly. You've killed so many people in Qiluo Prefecture. Do you still want to leave Qiluo Prefecture alive? You alone want to kill thousands of us? The deputy guild leader sneered. You are too arrogant. Brothers, let's go. Archers, kill this idiot for me. Use the demon heart arrow. One by one, the archers quickly reloaded their arrows with the demon heart arrows. However, they did not know that although the demon heart arrows were the natural enemy of godly state experts, they were nothing to gods who had awakened their god walls. If they could not even penetrate the god walls, they would not be able to seize god power. Lin Muyu looked at the horses they were riding and couldn't help but laugh. A bunch of motley crew, but their horses are not bad. Nonsense. The deputy team leader sneered and said, we spent a lot of money and effort to buy these war horses from the plains of the Thunder Flame sect. Prepare to die. This time no one will be sneak attacked by you. Is that so? Release the arrows. The arm strength of the Northern Stream Mercenary Group's mercenaries was quite outstanding. One arrow after another pierced through the air, and even Lin Muyu couldn't help but be secretly shocked. She had seen the strength of the Pishio mercenaries, and in terms of combat power, this group of Northern Stream mercenaries was clearly a notch above them. It was no wonder that they dared to land ahead of the Blackstone Empire mercenary group and plunder the cities of Shattered Cauldron Realm. The golden wall of the gourd pierced through the air and blocked all the arrows. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu took a deep breath, raised her sword, and turned into a bolt of lightning as she pounced at the deputy team leader. She roared, "Die!" The light intensified, and the starlight became resplendent. It was initial starlight. Furthermore, after cultivating the formless elephant art, Lin Muyu's attack aura became even sharper and bitingly cold. The moment she slashed out with her sword, the deputy team leader couldn't even move on his horse and had no way to dodge. The surrounding power of heaven and earth had already been completely controlled, and he couldn't even urge his horse to retreat. He could only block the attack head-on. When he raised his sword, he felt that something was wrong. Sure enough, the Ice Origin sword was bitingly cold, and with a clang, it broke the deputy team leader's sword. The sword light flashed and a head flew into the air. With just one initial starlight strike, a sacred heaven realm expert had already been beheaded. Heavens, the deputy team leader is dead. Deputy team leader. We will help you take care of your 12 concubines. The group of mercenaries was in chaos, and the archers forgot to continue shooting. They now knew that the strength of this sneak attacker was worlds apart from theirs. It wasn't something that could be changed by a few thousand people. Moreover, even the most powerful sacred martial supreme-level deputy team leader had been beheaded. How could the others have the ability to resist? The deputy team leader is dead. Everyone disperse and run. Everyone suddenly scattered. However, Lin Muyu stood majestically in the air. She suddenly stomped on the void with one foot, and with a bang the ground turned deathly white. A formless and tyrannical domain aura spread out, making it impossible for the escaping people to move. Moreover, it was as if Lin Muyu's stomp had stirred up a storm, and the white ground was filled with whirling wind blades. If one escaped, they would definitely die or be injured. No one is allowed to leave. Lin Muyu was in the air and she shouted in a low voice, "All of you dismount." The group of mercenaries was dumbfounded. They all dismounted from their war horses and knelt on the ground. The mercenaries in front of them all begged for mercy. "Milady, please spare us. All the evil was done by Song of the North Lioha. We were just trying to make a living." "I know. I didn't plan to kill all of you." Lin Muyu raised her palm lightly, and wisps of supreme godly power rose up. She said with an imposing aura, "Those who stepped into the Shattered Cauldron Realm and killed people from the Shattered Cauldron Realm, all of you step forward." Everyone was stunned and they all looked at each other. Lin Muyu couldn't help but fly into a rage. She said, "I've long awakened the power of a godly strategy, and I can see through people's minds. If you think you can deceive me, then go ahead and try. But if I see through you, the consequences will be eternal damnation. I can even destroy your soul." In this day and age, it was impossible not to deceive. In any case, the cultivation of the mercenaries in front of her was very low, and they couldn't see that Lin Muyu was only at the 30th celestial layer. Even if she told them that she had awakened the power of a godly strategy, they would still believe her. As expected, nearly 200 people walked out of the crowd one after another. Their faces were filled with shock, but they didn't dare to go against Lin Muyu's orders. If they did, they would probably suffer even worse consequences. Who did you kill? Lin Muyu asked indifferently. A burly man carrying a battle axe said carelessly, "My lord, we didn't kill any soldiers. We only killed some worthless hunters and fishermen." Why did you say they were worthless? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. The burly man was a smart man. He said, "My lord, from your attire, you should be one of the commanders of the Shattered Cauldron Realm's Qin army. Although I'm not very familiar with the structure of the Qin army, I know that a commander must have great foresight. A hunter and a fisherman can only bring 3 to 5 silver coins and taxes to the Qin Empire every year, but it's different for the soldiers. The training, equipment, and supplies of each soldier cost a lot of money. So, we only killed some worthless commoners. Please forgive us, my lord. As long as my lord doesn't hold grudges against us, I'm willing to surrender to the Qin Empire." Unfortunately, he felt the wrong pulse. He didn't know what kind of person Lin Muyu was. "You only killed commoners, right?" Lin Muyu asked. Nearly 200 mercenaries nodded in unison. "Yes, my lord, please forgive us." Lin Muyu smiled. His handsome smile looked like the smile of a devil in the eyes of the others. He slowly raised his palm and said, "If you killed soldiers on the battlefield, I could still respect your dignity as soldiers. But you killed commoners. Just based on this, you are not qualified to be soldiers of the Qin Empire. All of you, go to hell." With a wave of his sword, countless starlight whizzed out. No one expected that Lin Muyu would directly end these executioners with a tyrannical 7 glorious stars transformation. Boom, boom, boom. Countless amounts of astral energy fell to the ground, causing dust to fly everywhere. The hundreds of mercenaries within the range of the astral energy were howling in pain. The astral energy penetrated through their bodies, evaporating their flesh and blood. Even their armors were completely melted. In the blink of an eye, not a single one of the nearly 200 mercenaries was left alive. What was left was a huge pit filled with blood and broken bones. Oh my God! The remaining group of mercenaries were dumbfounded. How was this the power of a god? It was simply the power of a devil. 7 glorious stars transformation was the unique skill of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Thinking about what kind of person the 7 luminaries demon emperor was, he was a wanton and unrestrained demon. How could he care about the ethics of the world? He was born to kill. The 7 glorious stars transformation that he created was naturally tyrannical and filled with the aura of an expert. Moreover, if these 200 people didn't kill commoners indiscriminately, perhaps Lin Muyu wouldn't have used this skill. The divine power in his body circulated. Lin Muyu slowly sheathed the Ice Origin sword. This time he felt much better. After stepping into the Divine King realm, the astral transformation only consumed half of his divine power. Even the backlash wasn't as strong. This proved that his soul force and divine power had greatly increased. Perhaps, when he stepped into the Divine Emperor realm, he wouldn't have any backlash when using the astral transformation. Looking at the group of scared Northern Stream mercenaries, Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. She said, "Now I'll give you a chance. I'll let you become captives of the Qin Empire. After transformation you'll become soldiers of my Qin family. Are you willing? If you are willing, stay. If not, leave immediately. I won't make things difficult for you. Go back to the Blackstone Empire. This isn't a place where you should stay." Everyone was dumbfounded. Very soon many people wanted to leave. "Wait a moment. Leave the war horses behind. We'll walk." Chapter 873. Lin Muyu's voice was still cold. What he cared about was the war horses. Feng Jixing had taken away all the remaining horses in the Longdan army camp. As a result, there were less than 1,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp. This was not good. They urgently needed a large number of war horses to replenish the cavalry in the Longdan army camp. The 2,000 war horses in front of him were plump and strong. They were like a gift from the heavens. Everyone left the war horses and weapons behind and quickly walked into the forest. When he looked again, there were about 1,000 people who had not left. They guarded their horses and weapons and looked at Lin Muyu. One of the young soldiers said respectfully, "Madam, may I ask which commander of the Qin kingdom are you?" "I'm Lin Muyu." "What? Emperor Qin?" He was shocked and then murmured, "So it is the legendary Emperor Qin. It is not embarrassing for me to be captured by Emperor Qin himself." Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "Tell me, why are you willing to stay as captives?" The young soldier said, "Your Highness, I was originally a hunter in the mountains in the Blackstone Empire. My father was killed by mercenaries and I was kidnapped to the mountains to be a bandit. After so many years, I have no one to rely on. Since your highness is willing to take us in, it means that you think highly of us. Just for your highness, I am willing to go through fire and water. Are all of you the same? Lin Muyu raised his head and looked at the crowd. Nearly 1,000 people knelt down and said loudly, "We are all people who have no worries and are used to living on the edge of a knife. As long as your highness is willing to take us in, we will go through fire and water without hesitation." Good. Lin Muyu smiled. "All of you, get on the horses and follow me back to the Luo River estuary camp. But you are not soldiers of the Qin family yet. You have to go through training and assessment before you are qualified to be called soldiers. From now on, you have to put away the hostility and arrogance you had when you were mercenaries. Learn to restrain yourself and take responsibility. That is how real soldiers are. Do you understand?" "Yes." Satisfied, I rode on the vice leader's mount. Even after killing the vice leader, Lin Muyu didn't bear to damage this horse. She had really put a lot of thought into this. Under the moonlight, almost everyone in the group was riding a horse, leading another horse as they quickly dashed out of the forest. With just the strength of one person, they had captured 1,000 surrendered soldiers and 2,000 war horses. Lin Muyu's heart was filled with joy. The harvest from this trip to Chi-Luo County was too great, it was beyond her imagination. When she returned to the camp, she could use these 2,000 war horses as the base, in addition to the war horses sent from Winterfrost City in Heaven's Pivot Province. With a little reorganization, she could at least form nearly 10,000 cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp. With a little training they could restore their peak combat strength. As for the 20,000 cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp taken away by Feng Jixing, forget it. Just treat it as a gift. Judging from the situation, he didn't intend to exchange it. After all, he was Feng Jixing. However, Lin Muyu also knew that it was really too difficult for Yunzhong Pass to resist the 100,000 Longji army camp, 100,000 wolf soldiers, and nearly 200,000 troops. At this time, Feng Jixing needed elite soldiers more than ever. If he didn't give him full support, the wolf soldiers would march straight in from the north. They would first attack Tongtian Province and then Songnan Province. Songnan Province was known as the granary of the empire. There were thousands of miles of fertile fields, and the annual grain output accounted for nearly 40% of the empire. Songnan Province must not be lost, otherwise military grain would be a big problem. At the thought of this, the joy in Lin Muyu's heart was immediately diluted. It turned out that there were still so many troublesome matters, and there would always be so many problems waiting for him to solve. His heart was so tired. But he knew that it was all worth it. That girl would return sooner or later. When he thought of Qinin, his heart slightly warmed and he really wanted to hug her again. All of this shouldn't be a fantasy, right? Opposite shore, celestial pole continent. The sound of war drums rumbled. 2 days ago, a group of people holding the flag of the Blackstone Empire's Gale Legion launched a sneak attack on 3 granaries of the Celestial Empire in the forest bordering the border. They set fire to them and burned them for half a day, causing the Celestial Empire to lose countless provisions. This action also caused a great deal of wrath within the Celestial Empire. No one had expected that the Blackstone Empire would actually take the initiative to launch an attack. To the east of the Boundary Steel, there was a vast plain that stretched for thousands of miles. The plain was covered with densely packed military camps. From the Boundary Steel of the Qinji Empire to the Boundary Steel of the Blackstone Empire, the Celestial Empire had deployed at least 1 million mighty soldiers here. In fact, rather than saying that they had deployed a defense, it would be better to say that they were ready to make a move and were accumulating power. The closest city to the border of the Celestial Empire was called Sweet Spring City. There was a temporary imperial residence built in the city called Sweet Spring Palace. At this time, all the royalty of the Celestial Empire were living in Sweet Spring Palace, waiting for an unprecedented war to break out. At night, the red-crowned crane lanterns lined up in a row in the Sweet Spring Palace, illuminating the long corridor. Maids carried delicacies and fruit trays in their hands as they slowly walked past. Tonight was a feast because it happened to be the birthday of the first prince, Chen Qian. Birthday, more formal, not a term used for a memorial service. In the main hall of the temporary imperial residence, the lights were ablaze and the nobles were all gathered together. In addition, there was a group of high-ranking generals who had put down their weapons. The total military strength of the entire Celestial Empire was close to 1.5 million, and they were divided into 6 major corps and 21 minor corps. There were countless generals at the level of vassal kings, commanders, deputy commanders and captaincy. Naturally, such a feast was almost overcrowded. Cough, cough, cough. In the host seat, Emperor Qinhai was leaning on the arms of a maid, coughing violently. However, he still welcomed the officials with a smile, drinking cup after cup of wine and tasting the delicacies. Qin Qian was sitting beside Qinhai, his face flushed, and he was overwhelmed by the congratulations of the officials. As for Qin Yu, he was the only one who came with a sword. There was a slight smile on his face, but it seemed very forced. At this time, an official with a protruding mouth and cheeks like a monkey walked forward and bowed to Qin Qian. He smiled and said, "Your Highness, this subordinate is the governor of Eastern Sun City, Lu Hui. My aides have traveled the world and found an agile girl in the mountains. Her name is Su Ling. She is slender and graceful and can sing and dance well. She is specially presented to your Highness. Bring her here." Qin Qian smiled. Yes. Behind Lu Hui, a young girl slowly walked forward. She was indeed a peerless beauty. Her body was slim and her face was beautiful. After she bowed, her voice was like the sound of nature. "This little girl, Su Ling, greets your Highness, greets your Highness." Qinhai's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but smile. The beauty presented by Governor Lu is indeed extraordinary. Lu Hui was flattered. "Your Highness, you praise me too much. Today is the birthday of your Highness, and as a subject this is only my duty." "Ha!" Qinhai laughed and said, "Come, bestow 10 bolts of brocade and 1,000 taels of gold to Lady Lu Hui." "Thank you, your Highness." Lu Hui hurriedly knelt down, his face full of joy. Qin Qian, on the other hand, impatiently waved his hand. "Su Ling, beauty, come to me." In the blink of an eye, the girl was already sitting in Qin Qian's arms. This crown prince didn't care about the occasion at all. Perhaps the entire Celestial Empire didn't care about the occasion at all. Seeing Qin Qian holding a beauty and reciting poems, Qin Yu's anger became even more intense. "Your Highness, please calm down." Behind him, Liao Yang said in a low voice. "Sigh." Qin Yu sighed, his face full of anger. "The enemy is right in front of us, and instead of maintaining discipline in the barracks, we are here at Xiaoyao's place. How preposterous!" Liao Yang and the other advisors of the second prince were silent, not knowing what to say. This scene was the norm in the Celestial Empire. Emperor Qinhai and Crown Prince Qin Qian had always been indifferent to court affairs, let alone military affairs. In front of the emperor's steps, the flattering ministers presented their birthday gifts, and the smile on Qin Qian's face grew even wider. Finally, Qin Yu couldn't stand it anymore and stood up with his hand on the hilt of his sword. "My son Qin Yu, what's wrong?" Emperor Qinhai was the first to notice his son's uneasiness. Qin Yu stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Father, I have something to say." But his voice was almost completely drowned out by the voices of the musicians and singers behind him. Instantly, Qin Yu was filled with anger. He turned around and bellowed, "Stop! Musicians and singers, get out of here." His voice contained divine power, and it almost shook the entire hall of Oasis Palace. Qinhai frowned. "My son Qin Yu, what's going on?" "Father, I have something to say." "Speak." Qin Yu put his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, "The war at Shattered Cauldron Realm has reached a stalemate. The Tianji Empire's Long Ji Corps, Flowing Ji Corps and Tianji Dragon Riders have been fighting continuously on the Qin Empire's land. It is said that they suffered their first setback at the Luo River estuary and lost many soldiers. Within their country, only Zhang Qing commands the Lanji Corps and the Yanji Corps, a total of 500,000 soldiers. They are stationed at many passes on the border, and their military forces are very scattered. It can be said that the Tianji Empire is somewhat tired of dealing with the current war." "Why are you talking about war again?" Qinhai frowned. "Didn't we agree to only talk about romance today?" "But father." Qin Yu didn't give in and said, "The war is like a raging fire and there is no room for slacking. The opportunity now is fleeting, and if we keep waiting, we will only miss a good opportunity." Qin Qian couldn't help but laugh. "Second brother, you are exaggerating again. Who is Zhang Qing?" "He is a famous general of the Saint Martial God level. When Zhang Qing is fighting, we don't even know where he is. Moreover, Zhang Qing now has 500,000 soldiers under his command. Who can be sure that they can win against him?" Qin Yu was speechless. Just like what Qin Qian said, Zhang Qing was a famous general of the present age. He lived for 67 years and started fighting at the age of 17. He had been fighting for a whole 50 years, and he had 84 Heavenly Caves cultivation. Who could say that they could win against him? At this moment, another official stood up and said, "Your Majesty, I think that what the second prince said is reasonable. The situation in the celestial pole continent is changing rapidly. We can't keep waiting or we will become passive. By then, I'm afraid it will be too late for regrets. Dong Qingwang, do you also agree with what Qin Yu said? Qin Hai asked. Yes, Your Majesty. Dong Qingwang was one of the vassal kings and he had a lot of troops under his command. His support undoubtedly gave Qin Yu a big backing. Qin Yu looked at Dong Qingwang from afar, and his eyes were filled with gratitude. Dong Qingwang smiled slightly and nodded to show his respect. At this moment, Qin Hai stood up and was supported by two maids on either side of him, preventing him from collapsing. After coughing violently a few times he said, "Since we are going to fight, then you, tell me how should we fight?" Chapter 874. Qin Yu didn't express his opinion directly. He just said respectfully, "I'm just a greenhorn. I don't know much about strategies. Let's listen to the opinions of the generals and lords first." "All right, lords. Tell me, how should the Celestial Empire fight this war?" Qin Hai said. Everyone was solemn. A trace of jealousy flashed through Crown Prince Qin Qian's eyes. Today was his birthday, but Qin Yu actually wanted to discuss this in public. This was simply a slap in the face. He didn't give him any face at all. At this moment, another old general stood up and said, "Your Majesty, the Fire Element province of the Tianji Empire is located in a remote area. It's almost 2,000 miles away from Tianji City. The mountains are high and the roads are long. My informants have already found out that Zhang has 200,000 soldiers in the East Peace province, but only 100,000 soldiers in the Fire Element province. If we attack immediately, we can reach the capital of the Fire Element province in 1 day and 1 night. The Fire Element province is rich in ironware. More than half of the iron ore of the Tianji Empire comes from the Fire Element province. As long as we take the Fire Element province first, the people of the Tianji Empire can only fight with our soldiers with fire sticks." The officials laughed. Qin Hai also couldn't help but laugh and said, "Duke Tianyu's words are reasonable. Do you have any other opinions?" As soon as he finished speaking, another old civil official stood up and said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, I have a different opinion. As we all know, the Tianji Empire doesn't have many troops left behind. Among them, Zhang Cheng's troops are the most elite. Duke Tianyu avoiding the brunt of the attack and attacking the Fire Element province is indeed a brilliant plan, but I think that instead of avoiding the brunt of the attack, it's better to gather the warriors of the 3 armies of the Tianji Empire and attack East Com City fiercely. When East Com City is breached, Zhang Cheng the old dog will die. Our army first breaks through East Com province, and then we can directly attack Tianji City and capture Baiming Yuan, the Dog Emperor. Once Tianji City is breached, everything in the Tianji Empire will be over." Duke Tianyu was so angry that his beard flew up. He said, "Marquis Nanyang is a traitor. How dare you harm my lord?" The Marquis of Nanyang was also angry. "Duke Tianyu, how can you be so rude?" Duke Tianyu said, "Although our army is elite, our combat power is far from that of the Yenji Corps. Zhang Cheng is even more cunning. You said that we should directly attack East Com City, but if we can't take it down after a long time and the 3 armies are exhausted, then Zhang Cheng will mobilize the army of the Fire Element province to attack us from the flank. Wouldn't all our efforts be in vain? You framed our army like this. If you aren't a traitor, then what are you?" Lord Nanyang was so angry that his face turned pale. "Tianyu Duke, you're slandering me? You old B*****. You old dog, don't talk nonsense." Dong Qingwang laughed so hard that his tears were about to fall down. Qin Yu also shook his head helplessly. Although the Celestial Empire was full of talented people, the real authority lay in the hands of these useless old fogies. After all, they were all ministers who assisted his father, Qin Hai. Many of them had once made great contributions to the empire, but they were all old now, and no longer fit to discuss matters in the imperial court. Qin Hai's scalp went numb. He coughed violently again and said, "Don't quarrel. Why don't you say something? What do you think?" Qin Yu bowed respectfully and said, "Father, I think we should not discuss how to attack the Tianji Empire, but how to attack the Blackstone Empire." Qin Hai was stunned. Dong Qingwang was also stunned. "Your Second Highness, why do you say that? We should attack the Blackstone Empire instead of the most threatening Tianji Empire. What's the meaning of this?" Qin Yu smiled and said, "Uncle, the Tianji Empire still has Zhang Cheng and 500,000 soldiers. Even if we attack them, it will take at least half a year to finish the war. But the Blackstone Empire is different. Their Marshal Bailey Qin personally led the army to the Shattered Cauldron world, bringing with him the Pale Flame Corps and the Sea Breeze Corps. There are only 200,000 soldiers left in the country. As far as I know, the Blackstone Empire has been in a series of civil wars recently. Many mercenary corps have begun to plunder and invade various prefectures. At least half of the 200,000 soldiers in the Gale Corps have to annihilate the mercenary corps, and the other half have to guard the 13 passes on the border. There are only 8 or 9,000 soldiers at each pass. If we can't defeat such an opponent, then we can forget about unifying the celestial pole continent. Dongqing Wang frowned and said, "Your Second Highness's strategy is indeed shrewd and ruthless. But if we attack the Blackstone Empire, that old dog Zhang Qing suddenly makes a long-distance raid and directly attacks our capital, Laohan City, what should we do?" "Don't worry, Zhang Qing wouldn't dare." Qin Yu's eyes turned cold and he said, "Maybe soon even Zhang Qing will have to go to the Shattered Cauldron world." What? Qin Hai was also surprised. Why are you so sure?" Qin Yu said, "Because Lin Muyu of the Shattered Cauldron world won't be defeated so easily. With just Baiming Huan and 2 armies, I'm afraid Lin Muyu won't be able to throw away his armor." Qin Qian smiled and said, "Second brother, don't brag so much that you'll lose your teeth. Lin Muyu is thousands of miles away on the other side." "How can you be so sure that Lin Muyu won't be defeated?" "Because I've seen him and I know his sharp edge. This kind of person won't be defeated so easily." "What? When did you see him?" Qin Hai was shocked. Qin Yu smiled and said, "Father, do you still remember that a few months ago Qinji Sek Si Kongyao and Qinji Dragon Rider Lin Tongtian went to Laohan City?" Yes, I still remember. The young man following Si Kongyao is Lin Muyu." "What?" Qin Hai was shocked. "The Qin king of the Shattered Cauldron world came to Laohan City? How could I not know? I didn't know his identity at first. It was only after Lin Muyu and the others left that I realized. Father, Lin Muyu's strength, strategy and courage are far above me. How can such a person be defeated so easily when he has the support of the entire Shattered Cauldron world? Moreover, Lin Muyu has many capable people around him. Feng Jixing, Chu Chu, Tang Xiaoxi, Xiang Yu and the others are all geniuses. The Tianji Empire wants to destroy the Shattered Cauldron world with only 2 armies. That's a fool's dream. Lin Muyu is so scary." Qin Hai almost couldn't sit still. He said, "If we attack the Blackstone Empire now, when will we attack the Tianji Empire?" Qin Yu smiled and said, "Don't worry, father. Let the Tianji Empire and Lin Muyu fight. The fiercer they fight, the better. If Zhang Qing is really sent to the Shattered Cauldron world, then the outcome is set. The person who will unify the entire plane in the future will definitely be you, father. Then there will only be one emperor in this world and that is you, father." Hearing this, Qin Hai beamed with joy. Good, well said. As expected of my son, Qin Hai." Qin Yu cupped his hands and bowed. "Father, I request for military authority. Let me lead the army to attack the Blackstone Empire." "All right. Someone bring me the 3-army tiger tally." The servant respectfully walked forward with the box. After opening the box, there were a total of 6 tiger talismans. Qin Hai said, "These 12 tiger talismans are used to mobilize the troops of the 6 armies. The commanders of each army will hold half of one. The other 6 are with me. Only when 2 tiger talismans are with you can you mobilize the troops. This time the expedition." "Wait a moment, father." Qin Xian suddenly stood up. "Father, how can you be so careless with the military affairs of the country? Second brother is eager to gain merit, but in the end he is still too young. Moreover, father is already drunk today. Even if you want to bestow the tiger talismans, why don't you wait until tomorrow morning? When father sobers up, then bestow the tiger talismans to second brother. What do you think?" Qin Hai was startled. Then he nodded. "Fine. Tomorrow it is. Wait one more day." "Yes, father." Qin Yu respectfully bowed. After lowering his head, his face was filled with anger. Late at night, Sweet Spring Palace. After dismissing the attendants, only Qin Hai and Qin Qian remained. "Qin, why did you stop me?" Qin Hai asked. Qin Qian said, "Imperial father, second brother is an ambitious person. Not to mention he's still so young. Even though he's rendered a great deal of meritorious military service in the past, he's still too impatient. Today it would seem like second brother yearns for power too much. If Imperial father really passes the military authority to him, would he still be satisfied with the authority before him after second brother conquers the cities of the Darkstone Empire? Can father be sure that second brother doesn't want to rule the world and stand above all?" This, Qin Hai frowned. He is your little brother, our son. Qin Qian smiled. This son knows that Imperial Father is a sage, but the temptation of power is too great. I doubt if second brother can resist it. In my opinion, it is better not to give second brother too much military power for the time being. This will cause him to lose himself. Once he really sinks into the abyss of power, what if he leads the army to turn against us? What can Imperial Father do to stop him? Father can also see that the majority of the generals in the hall are on second brother's side. That can't be right? Qin Hai muttered. You can't possibly kill his father and usurp the throne? A man's heart is hard to predict, Father. Even if he is your son, once he achieves great merits, it is hard to guarantee that he won't develop evil thoughts. I ask Father to reconsider. This is all this son has to say. I know. Qin Hai slowly sat down. Waving his hand, he said, Go, I will think about it. Yes. The next day, Qin Hai promoted Qin Yu to the position of Vanguard General, leading 5,000 troops to attack the Blackstone Empire. In fact, Qin Yu didn't even receive a single tiger tally. When he received the imperial edict, he was so angry that his entire body trembled. He slammed the imperial edict on the table and circulated his godly energy, instantly tearing the imperial edict and the table to pieces. You want us to attack the Blackstone Empire with only 5,000 men? What difference is there from sending us to our deaths? Liao Yang was enraged. I will go find His Majesty and ask for clarification. Don't go. Qin Yu sat there dejectedly. His expression was stern. There must be someone gossiping in front of Father. Don't let me find out who it is. Since Father wants me to attack the Blackstone Empire, then 5,000 men it is. I will prove to Father that 5,000 men can also attack cities and gain merits. Second Prince, are you serious? What do you think? Qin Yu took a deep breath and said, Liao Yang, go to the Celestial Extremity sect immediately and send my regards to the sect master. Take my letter and ask for reinforcements. I'll send as many as the sect master can give. Otherwise, I'll be courting death if I attack the city with my official army alone. Yes, Your Highness. Chapter 875. Amidst the rumbling sounds of war drums, the South once again raised their weapons. Empire Calendar, Year 7742, May 19th, the Blackstone Empire's 200,000 elite soldiers and 50,000 surrendered soldiers, totaling 250,000, attacked Su Jintao's dragon-slaying pass. Outside the dragon-slaying pass, banners covered the sky. Countless Blackstone Empire's troops were already wildly preparing for battle. Each and every one of them wore a fierce expression, their eyes filled with greed as they stared at the pass that stood between two mountain ranges. Dragon-slaying pass. During the era of their ancestors, a dragon descended from the heavens and devoured the common people. Afterwards, it was killed by a vassal king who guarded Hundred Ridge City with a single slash of his sword. As a result, the fortress that was built afterwards was called Dragon-slaying Pass. Even the Dragon-slaying Pass's conference hall had the head of that giant dragon hanging in front of it, even though it was only a low-level pseudo-dragon. They're finally here. On top of the pass, a group of Qin family generals stood in great numbers. Among them, the one wearing commander's armor was precisely Su Jintao. His hand was resting on the hilt of his sword, trembling slightly. His pair of tiger-like eyes looked at the enemy army in the distance, only to see the cruel and ruthless Blackstone Empire troops uniformly raising 3-meter-long spears. Every spear was pierced with a head, and those heads belonged to the imperial soldiers who had followed Yao Yuan and died in battle in Linghan City. Apart from that, there were also many heads of the common people. At a glance, there were at least 10,000 heads. Su Jintao's hand trembled even more violently, his eyes surging with deep hatred. He said, "Bastards, these bastards. The bandits of the Blackstone Empire aren't human, they're a group of uncivilized beasts." Next to him, the deputy general said, "Marquis, the Blackstone Empire's bandit army has arrived. It seems that they didn't suffer as many losses as we thought. Their main force is still around 200,000, and they've even enslaved the Sky Province's prefectures, turning them into their vanguard army. How should we fight this battle? We can't possibly use our magicite cannons to greet our former comrades, can we? Let's act according to the circumstances. Besides, we are running low on cannonballs. Most of the cannonballs from Lanyan City and Winterfrost City have been sent to the Luo River Estuary, Cloud Middle Pass and Seven Seas City. We have less than 10% left. I'm afraid that we will run out of cannonballs after a few rounds of bombardment. If we don't use magicite cannons, how will we stop the Blackstone Empire? Use bows, arrow boxes, and ballistae. Su Jiantao clenched his fists, his eyes filled with determination. Use everything that can be used. Behind us are more than 10 prefectures and millions of people in the Lingnan province. We must not let the beasts of the Blackstone Empire cross over. Otherwise, you and I will be the sinners of the Qin Empire. But, the deputy general's voice trembled as he said, we only have 50,000 soldiers and most of them are new recruits with less than a month of training. How can we resist 200,000 elites? Don't shake the morale of the army. Su Jiantao looked coldly at the deputy general and said, it doesn't matter if you and I die here, but we can't lose the face of His Highness' reign, and we can't lose the people of the Longdan army camp. In the end, it's the Longdan army camp that guards the dragon-slaying pass. It's the strongest army of the Qin Empire. Don't talk about those cowards anymore. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp never fear war or death. But Marquis, stop talking. Go count the number of arrows and conscript the civilians in the pass. Let all the workers come into the city and cut down the birch forest in the back of the mountain to help us make arrows. In addition, take out the flag of the Longdan army camp and hang it up. I want our brothers to know that they are members of the Longdan army camp. Even if they die in battle, they will go to hell with me as soldiers of the Longdan army camp. Yes, Marquis. The sounds of the war drums became more and more intense, and the army outside the city was ready to make a move. However, there was still no movement until the afternoon. When the soldiers on the walls of the city were about to become impatient from waiting, another drumming rhythm finally sounded out. The battle formation of the Darkstone Empire made way, and a group of soldiers dressed in khaki clothes appeared behind them. They were the surrendered soldiers of the Qin army. They're here? A captaincy gnashed his teeth and said, do they want the surrendered soldiers to die in the front? The Qin people didn't kill the Qin people, so they are forcing us to submit. Despicable Bailey Qin. Su Jiantao took a deep breath and said, surrendered soldiers? Don't shoot first. Yes. The deputy general was stunned and said, we are not going to defend the city? No, defend. Su Jiantao squinted his eyes and said, look carefully, do you know anyone among the surrendered soldiers? Yes. A 10-man squad leader said loudly, Marquis, the black-faced man at the front is called Zhang Shaoxi. He is from the same hometown as me. Last year he was sent to Linghan City to guard the city, but he was captured. Marquis, I know a few people. That one, and that one. They used to be part of the garrison of Bailing City. Later on they were transferred to join the navy. Shouts resounded out successively, and it allowed Su Jiantao to discern some subtle information. Indeed, the members of the Darkstone Empire were ruthless and ferocious, and they would absolutely not allow their own people to give their lives away first. So they'd organized these 50,000 surrendered soldiers to attack the city first. The surrendered soldiers' eyes suddenly became clear, as if they could see the light of day again. The ups and downs of life came too quickly. Just a moment ago, they felt that they would die in humiliation under the blades of their own people. Now they were actually forgiven so quickly. One by one they hurriedly flew into the city. The 5 great city gates of Zhanlong Pass opened at the same time. The speed at which they entered the city was extremely fast, like a tide. All magic crystal cannons aim 1,000 meters away. Cover the retreat for our brothers in the Sky Province. Su Jiantao ordered loudly. The magic crystal cannons all aimed into the distance and raised their heads. In the main army camp of the Blackstone Empire, Bailey Qin, Bailey Yen, Fuyu Hanshu and the others stood on a high platform, watching everything that was happening in the distance. However, they seemed powerless. They've switched on and received the surrendered soldiers. Bailey Yan's sword-like eyebrows were tightly locked together. Su Jiantao, that bastard. His actions are always unexpected. Why does he dare to switch on and off so boldly? Isn't he afraid that we'll take advantage of the situation and kill our way in? Even in his dreams he wants us to kill our way in. Bailey Qin coldly said, there are tens of thousands of cannon pits outside the city. As long as our army kills our way in, he will be able to kill and injure tens of thousands of our empire's fierce warriors without suffering a single scratch. He really has wishful thinking. Ancestor, are we just going to watch these 50,000 surrendered soldiers go back like this? Bailey Yen was somewhat unwilling. Those who want to achieve great things must learn to be patient. These 50,000 surrendered soldiers are just a bunch of clay chickens and pottery dogs. They are not worth mentioning at all. So what if we give them to Su Jiantao? Let's wait a little longer. Once the sky turns dark, immediately dispatch elite soldiers with iron shovels. Under the protection of the shield soldiers, dig out their magic crystal cannons. Don't send too many people. Destroy them one by one and leave Su Jiantao helpless. Yes, Marshal is wise. Fu Yu nodded. In the blink of an eye, night fell. Thousands of Blackstone Empire's elites rushed to the front of Zhanlong Pass, avoiding the shooting range of the archers. They began to wave their iron shovels and dig large pits. However, after digging one pit after another and every pit was several meters deep, there was nothing. Immediately, everyone was at a loss. Naturally, this loss quickly aroused the anger of the Central Army's martial tent. Bastard. Bailey Qin shattered the table with a palm strike. With a pale face he said, "That bastard Su Jiantao actually dared to make fun of this marshal. Only by tearing his corpse into 10,000 pieces can I quench the hatred in my heart." Fu Yu raised his blade. "Marshal, this general requests to be deployed. Let me attack Zhanlong Pass this very night." "Alright, go." "Yes." Chapter 876. Late at night, flames rose into the sky. Countless tiger leopard cavalry, dragon cavalry, beast cavalry, and heavy cavalry arrived at the city. As usual, Fu Yu still took on the heavy responsibility of being the vanguard. Just like when they landed on Dragon Island and broke through Linghan City, it was always the Blue Flame Army that broke through the city first. This time, Fu Yu still wanted to keep the credit in his hands. Raise your shields, avoid the dragon flames and protect the marquee. Although the dragon armor was hard, arrows made of white diamond could still penetrate it as long as the archer had enough strength. Looking at the Longdan army camp, an expert like Wei Chou could kill a dragon within 50 meters with one arrow. Although the other group of elite archers' arm strength and cultivation couldn't compare to Wei Chou's, they could still injure the dragon with a series of attacks. On the city wall, the shields were burning red and smoking. However, this round of attack from the dragon cavalry clearly didn't achieve the effect that the Blackstone Empire wanted. Originally, the dragon flames could melt steel and kill the soldiers behind the shields, but this time it didn't. This was because these shields were all engraved. Although it was only a level 1 fire control seal that cost 100 blades, it was enough to save the lives of the soldiers. The city wall was in chaos. After avoiding the first round of attack from the dragon cavalry, the soldiers on the city wall immediately threw down arrows. Below the city wall, the densely packed Blue Flame Army screamed. However, if one of them died in battle, someone would immediately take his place, running towards the edge of the city wall with ladders and chariots. As long as they could set up the ladders, Dragon Slaying Pass would be in danger. Kacha. Su Jiantao jumped onto the city wall and slashed his long sword horizontally, cutting 2 tiger leopard cavalry in half. At the same time he shouted, "It's done, fire." "Vice Commander." "Yes, Marquis." "Pass the order, fire." This small voice was nothing on the several kilometers long battlefront. At this time it was very difficult for anyone to hear what they were saying. Below the city walls, Fu Yu held his saber and rode on his warhorse. He sniffed the air with all his might and said, "What is this smell? It is familiar." "I don't know." The 2 deputy commanders shook their heads. At this moment, faint smoke began to rise from the ground within 200 meters of the city. Only then did Fu Yu realize that the ground in front of the city was filled with holes the size of a fist. Smoke was coming out of them and he could even see wisps of flames erupting from them. It was as if a volcano was descending. What's going on? What's underground? Although Fu Yu was brave but not astute, he had developed a rather good sense of smell after leading troops for so many years. He had already sensed that the situation was far from good, but there were already tens of thousands of Blue Flame Army soldiers clashing with the other party. Could there be a trap underground? Asked the deputy commander. Impossible. Fu Yu quickly denied and said, "During the day the 50,000 surrendered soldiers passed through here. If there really was a trap they should have fallen in immediately. That was their mission. There can't be a trap." But, at this moment, crackling sounds came from underground. It was the sound of burning wood. Fu Yu was even more confused. He sniffed the air with all his might and said, "I know what that smell is. It's black beech oil." You seem to have guessed something. On top of the city wall, Su Jiantao also revealed a smile and shouted, "Men use the Earth Heavenly Book. It's time to let them taste the taste of a roasted pig." On top of the city wall, the Kiliarchs hidden in the crowd drew their swords. These swords were basically embryonic heavenly books, and they glowed in various colors. The next moment, countless meteorites wrapped in flames fell from the sky and crashed into the ground in front of the city wall. This crash actually caused a few sections of the ground to cave in, and flames shot up into the sky. The ground had already been hollowed out. The reason why it remained in its original state was because the bottom was filled with wooden supports, and the bottom of the supports was filled with black beech oil. The oil fueled the fire and burned off the supports. After being smashed by the Earth Heavenly Book, a chasm that was nearly 5 kilometers long and nearly 200 meters wide appeared in front of them. It was a chasm that was filled with flames. Screams filled the air as countless blue flame armies, tiger leopard cavalry, beast cavalry, and heavy cavalry fell into the fiery chasm. This was a chasm that was nearly 5 meters deep. Hiss, hiss! Fuyu's warhorse let out a long neigh and fell into the trench of fire. Fuyu only had time to carry the 2 deputy commanders in each hand and fly in the air. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. Despicable and shameless Su Jiantao. Despicable and shameless. I will definitely tear you into pieces. On top of the city wall, Su Jiantao had already drawn his sword. Open the city gates. Cavalry, charge out and send them off. Su Jiantao's tactics were all deceitful. In terms of intelligence, he had his opponent completely in the palm of his hand. A large number of Tsangnan iron cavalry rushed out of the city and swept away the remaining blue flame soldiers at the corner of the city wall. Meanwhile, the main force of the Blue Flame Army 500 meters away from the city wall could only watch helplessly as the front line was slaughtered. Crack! Lightning flashed and suddenly, a figure appeared on top of the city wall. It was Bailey Qin. Marquis, let's go. Almost at the same time, a guard behind Su Jiantao twisted the handle of his sword and activated the heavenly book. A beam of light shone down as he grabbed Su Jiantao's wrist. The two of them instantly disappeared. Buzz. Airflow reverberated. Bailey Qin's palm missed, but the dozens of soldiers behind him turned into a mist of blood. He was so angry that he decided to start a massacre on the city wall. Magic crystal cannons, calibrate at all costs. The deputy commander roared. On top of the city wall, 3 magic crystal cannons fired at the same time. Bailey Qin had just broken through the void and was unable to leave. As a result, the 3 magic crystal cannons immediately released waves of energy on the city wall, crushing the surrounding soldiers and the city wall into dust. However, Bailey Qin's body was surrounded by the thick energy of the god wall. With a furious roar, he poured the law of earth into the crowd. Countless stone awls pierced through the air, and dozens of soldiers died on the spot. Their bodies were completely pierced by the stone awls, and they died a terrible death. In the air, the dragon knights circled and poured down beams of god power. However, the Qin army did not retreat. The magic crystal cannons continuously released light in the air, mixed with white arrows and arrow boxes. They fought with their lives on the line. After nearly 10 minutes, Bailey Qin's god wall was forcefully destroyed by the magic crystal cannons, but he had already killed thousands of soldiers by himself. His god power was almost exhausted. He laughed coldly and stepped into the shattered void. The dragon knights in the air also circled and retreated. The flames of the Zhanlong Pass rose to the sky. If this was a victory for the Qin army, it was a Pyrrhic victory. In the forest far away, the two of them stood in the darkness, looking at the soaring flames in the distance as well as the silhouettes of the dragon knights reflected in the flames. Those giant dragons were like locusts wreaking havoc in the sky, leaving the human soldiers helpless. Su Jiantao felt like knives were being twisted in his heart. He clenched his fists and said, "I'm really useless. The only thing I can do is run and run again and again." The guard said respectfully, "Marquis, the difference between us and the enemy is too great. This is the only way. His Highness, you sent me to protect you. If the enemy is strong, then retreat. If the enemy is weak, then attack. His Highness, you told you this himself." Su Jiantao nodded his head in a daze. "Let's go back. Bailey Qin has already left." "Yes." In this battle, Su Jiantao used a total of 15,000 barrels of black beech oil. He used up half of the black beech oil stored in the southern Ridge province. Finally, on the first day, he managed to resist the Blackstone Empire's challenge. At dawn the next day, the sky outside the city was still covered in smoke. However, those who fell into the trap were almost all dead. Inside the dragon-slaying pass, countless commoners were pushing boulders into the city to repair the city walls. While the magic crystal cannons had chased away Bailey Qin, They had also destroyed nearly a kilometer of the city wall. Su Jintao didn't sleep the entire night. He sat on the city wall in a daze as he looked at the busy soldiers. He didn't know what he had done wrong, but in this battle, the corpses after corpses were enough to prove that he had failed. "Marquis, are you all right?" The deputy general, whose face was covered in dust, asked respectfully. "I'm fine. Have you calculated the losses?" "I've calculated it." The deputy general's voice was choked with sobs. "In this battle, more than 7,400 of our brothers died in battle, and more than 2,000 are injured. Most of our brothers died under Bailey Qin's hands. Once they are injured, it will be hard for them to survive. Marquis, don't say any more." Su Jintao was filled with grievances and frustration. The Empire's casualty ratio should have been about 4-1, meaning that 4 people were injured and 1 person died in battle. However, this time it was almost the opposite. Bailey Qin, just how powerful was this God Emperor's cultivation? In the past, the Empire had fought against humans and demons, but this time they were fighting against gods. The limit of human strength was simply unable to shake the power of a god. "How about 50,000 surrendered soldiers? Arrange them in the rear army. Basically, there won't be any losses," the deputy general said. "However, the rations of these 50,000 surrendered soldiers are a problem. In a single night, almost half of our rations have been consumed. Marquis, we need to mobilize rations from the prefectures in the rear. Otherwise, our rations will only last for 3 days." "Understood. Pass down the order." "Yes." Fortunately, the Blackstone Empire's losses were also quite severe. The Ashen Flame army lost close to 20,000 men at the front. They needed to rest for 2 to 3 days before continuing to attack the city. This gave Su Jintao some precious time to build the city walls. However, under the attacks of Bailey Qin and the god-level Dragon Knight, how could the city walls be built? This was the most painful problem for Su Jintao. In the evening, the winged cavalry came to report. "Reporting to Marquis, something bad has happened. Our rations transport team has been intercepted." "What?" Su Jintao fell from his seat absent-mindedly. Holding onto the table, he asked with bloodshot eyes, "Who is it? What exactly is going on?" "The person who robbed the rations calls himself Ding Shi. He led at least 10,000 troops and suddenly appeared between us and the prefectures in the rear, completely cutting off our rations." "Ding Shi?" Su Jintao was stunned. "What's going on?" He hurriedly looked at the map and gritted his teeth. For an army to suddenly appear in this position, it can only be from the direction of Mingshan Province's St. Peak. "It's people from Mingshan Province." "Yes." Ding Shi also said that he hopes that Marquis will follow him to meet someone. "This will only be beneficial to us and won't harm us." "Meet who?" "I don't know." The deputy general frowned. "Ding Shi is a fickle and despicable person. Marquis, you are the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. You can't act rashly. I know what's important." Su Jintao suddenly smiled and said, "Prepare the horse. I'm going." Chapter 877. In the starry night, a fast horse galloped on the official road in the forest. Regardless of the deputy general's objection, Su Jintao only took 4 guards to meet Ding Shi. There was no other reason. Su Jintao knew Ding Shi's character. He also knew that Ding Shi had saved the female Empress Qin Yin and Lin Muyu in Xiang City. Moreover, Ding Shi never used weapons during his tenure as the marshal of the Yihe Kingdom. Could be said that Ding Shi saved Qin Yin and Lin Muyu, which was equivalent to saving the entire Qin Empire. It was his kindness that changed the current situation of the history of the shattered tripod world. After galloping for hundreds of miles, a campfire appeared in the distance. A white tent was set up at the foot of the mountain. Under the light of the campfire, soldiers with spears could be seen faintly. Swish! An arrow fell from the sky and fell straight in front of Su Jintao's horse, forcing him to stop. "Come, report your name," the captain who shot the arrow said loudly. "Su Jintao is here to see General Ding Shi." "Marquis, come in." Several cavalrymen galloped forward and led the way for Su Jintao. Su Jintao's eyes were sharp. He rode slowly all the way, and his attention was completely attracted by this army. Most of the armor of this group of people was still the original armor of the Yihe Kingdom. It could be imagined that they were Ding Shi's former subordinates. However, there were also some strange guys mixed in the army. Some rode wolves, some held slightly red iron pipes in their hands, and half a cigar in their mouths, looking like stinky hooligans. Who are these people? Su Jiantao frowned, full of doubts. A few minutes later, the curtain of a large tent in front of him was lifted, and a long-lost figure appeared. It was Ding Shi, one of the former two marshals of the Yihe kingdom. But now Ding Shi could almost be called an old general. His hair was gray and there were some wrinkles on his face, but his eyes were still hale and hearty. "I'm Ding Shi. I've been waiting for Marquis Sangnan for a long time." Ding Shi crossed his chest with one hand, still performing the military salute of the Qin Empire. Su Jiantao dismounted and cupped his fists. "I am Su Jiantao, greeting General Ding Shi." "Marquis, you're too kind." Ding Shi looks at Su Jiantao's military salute and is a little surprised. It seems that, as the legend says, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing have already implemented the military salute reform in the Qin army. It's interesting that the brave don't stir up trouble and the strong don't violate the ban. "I don't know why General Ding Shi wants to cut off our army's supply route?" Su Jiantao asked directly. Ding Shi smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "Old friend, don't quarrel with me the moment we meet. I didn't come to Lingnan province to quarrel with you. Come, I'll take you to see someone. You must keep calm." "Oh? What kind of person can make me, Su Jiantao, lose my calm?" General Ding Shi can't be thinking that Su Jiantao is still the young boy from the Holy Temple, right? You'll know when you see him." Ding Shi lifted the curtain of the tent and walked in first, followed by Su Jiantao. There are many people sitting on both sides of the tent, but judging by their clothes they don't look like people from Shattered Cauldron World. Su Jiantao suddenly frowned. The aura of these young men and women is extraordinary, and some are even stronger than Feng Jixing and the others. Who are they? But right when Su Jiantao's gaze landed on the host's seat, the young girl that knelt on the meditation cushion, his entire body instantly trembled, and his mind went blank. That peerlessly exquisite appearance and extraordinary figure were extremely similar to a person from the legends. No, it wasn't just similar, even the disposition she emitted was exactly the same. Plop. Su Jiantao was so excited that he suddenly knelt on one knee and made a military salute. His whole body trembled and even his voice was almost out of control. Subordinate Marquis Sangnan, Su Jiantao kowtows to Her Highness Yin. Terralin, who was sitting on one side, smiled. "See, another one who has mistaken me for someone else. Xin, quickly tell him that you're not Qin Yin." Xin closed her eyes and faced Su Jiantao and said, "Marquis Sangnan, do I really look like that Empress Qin Yin? Could it be that Her Highness is not the Empress?" Su Jiantao was somewhat at a loss. "No." Xin moved her red lips and seemed to be somewhat regretful. "Perhaps?" Su Jiantao was stunned. His eyes looked around and finally fell on one person. He immediately pulled out his sword and shouted, "Jianghu, you traitor! The Empire has treated you well, but you actually betrayed us." Jianghu's expression was calm, as if he had long guessed that Su Jiantao would be like this. "Marquis Sangnan, don't be in a hurry to curse. I submitted to Xin because I don't want the people of Mingshan province to be plunged into misery and suffering." "It sounds nice, but you're just greedy for life and afraid of death." "Whatever you say." Su Jiantao gritted his teeth, suddenly stood up and said to the guard behind him, "Someone immediately send a letter to the Luo River Estuary Fortress. Tell Her Highness Yu that Her Highness Qin Yin is in Lingnan province, and tell her to come to Dragon Slaying Pass immediately." "Yes." "Wait." Ding Shi raised his hand to stop him. "Marquis Sangnan, Her Highness Lin Muyu is currently guarding the Luo River Estuary. If he comes and the Luo River Estuary is lost, can you bear this responsibility?" "Aye." Su Jiantao's eyes flickered. He once again knelt down on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Her Highness Yu, this subordinate does not know why you don't acknowledge your identity, but this subordinate is very clear about everything Lin Muyu has done for you. He has shouldered the responsibility that you should have shouldered, racked his brains, was covered with cuts and bruises, fought for 6 years and waited for you for 6 years. Her Highness Yu, I beg you, don't let him wait for so long." "Lin Muyu?" Xin frowned. "But I don't have him in my memory. Do you want to force me to fall in love with someone I don't know?" This subordinate. Su Jiantao gritted his teeth. He didn't know what to say. After nearly half a minute, he suddenly raised his head and said, "Her Highness Yu, what if this subordinate can prove that you are Qin Yin?" "How do you want to prove it?" Xin asked. "Bloodline." Su Jiantao said, "You are a member of the Qin family. You have the bloodline of the Qin family's supreme emperor. Your bloodline has a tyrannical power called the God-binding lock. I think you must also know the power of this martial spirit. Your Highness, please summon the God-binding lock immediately." Only the Qin family has the God-binding lock. This is enough to prove everything. But, Xin murmured, I don't know the power of the God-binding lock. Don't make things difficult for me, Marquis Songnan. No, you are Qinin. Su Jiantao clenched his fist so hard that it made a buzzing sound. His nails dug into his flesh and blood seeped out. He said each word sonorously, I beg you, open your eyes and look at this subordinate. Look at this world that originally belonged to you. Everyone in this world is waiting for you to rule the world again. Your Highness, you, please open your eyes and look at this subordinate. Maybe it can make you remember the past. Do you really want Xin to open her eyes? Don't regret it, Terralyn said lightly. This subordinate will never regret it. Well, Xin, open your eyes and look at him. Let him look at you. Okay. Xin gently nodded. Her eyelashes were surrounded by golden flames. She slowly opened her eyes and suddenly, an invisible scorching aura filled the surroundings. When Xin completely opened her eyes, a pair of golden red eyes of blazing light turned into the power of a domain that was the best in the three realms. The surrounding group of people almost couldn't breathe. This was a very uncomfortable feeling. Xiangyu couldn't help but lower his head. Even though he had seen the eyes of blazing light once, he still didn't want to face this kind of eyes that seemed to belong to a true god again. A beast-like gurgling sound came from Su Jiantao's throat. He felt as if he had fallen into purgatory. He couldn't move and every inch of his skin seemed to be burning. Under the gaze of the eyes of blazing light, he would rather choose death than to bear this kind of fear and deterrence. But as one of the commanders of the Longdan army camp, Su Jiantao still put one fist on the ground and maintained his original kneeling posture. He gritted his teeth and said, Are you really not Her Highness Xin? Xin stared at him and slowly nodded. I don't think so. At least, Your Highness Xin doesn't have such eyes, right? Yes, Su Jiantao finally couldn't help but lower his head. His nose was sour and tears flowed out of his eyes and splashed on the ground. Xin slowly closed her eyes. She knew that no one in this world would be willing to be stared at by her like this. Compared to them, she was like a living monster. She looked at Su Jiantao with clear eyes and suddenly smiled. The Cangnan Province Chain Artillery Formation defeated the main force of the Blackstone Empire, and then forced the Fuyu army to retreat with a false strategy in Jianlong Pass. Why is the famous general of the Qin army, Su Jiantao, crying here? Xiangyu also sneered. Su Jiantao sobbed and his tears kept splashing on the ground. I, Su Jiantao, am not crying out of fear, but my heart aches for my commander Yu. He has waited for so long, but it's all in vain. He originally had a heaven-bestowed talent, enough to be favored by any emperor in the heaven realm, but he lingers in this insignificant broken cauldron world, suffering in the war. Dingxi was silent. Xiangyu gritted his teeth and didn't say anything. On the other hand, Terralyn seemed to be moved. Her eyes were red and her nose was sour. She almost cried as she asked, Su Jiantao, that Lin Muyu really has such deep feelings for Qinin? Su Jiantao looked up at Terralyn and said, I, Su Jiantao, am a boorish man. I don't know what love is all my life, but I know that His Highness Yu sealed himself for 4 years for Qinin, then entered purgatory, challenged the Ghost Emperor, entered the Celestial Pole continent, fought with Demon Emperor-level experts, and got himself covered in wounds, all for the promise he once made to His Highness Yu's father, Great Emperor Qingjin. He could have been at ease in Xiaoyao with a group of wives and concubines, but now he is still waiting alone in the cold night. If this isn't love, then what is? Terralyn pursed her red lips and said, Xin, if you are really Qinin, I am very envious of you. By the way, Su Jiantao, that His Highness Yu, is he handsome? Su Jiantao frowned. His Highness Yu's handsomeness is unparalleled in the entire empire. Then he is so handsome that he has no friends? Yes. Xin, I am even more envious of you. Terralyn giggled, easing the originally oppressive atmosphere. At this time Xin said slowly, Su Jiantao, are you willing to listen to my orders? If you are, I will help you guard Dragon Slaying Pass. How about it? This. Su Jiantao frowned but said, I refuse. What? Dragon Slaying Pass is the land of the Qin family. It is not something that I, Su Jiantao, can decide. But, with the troops in your hands, are you a match for Bailey Qin and Bailey Yin? No, but I will do my best to fight. I will have a clear conscience and a clear conscience for the people. You are indeed a good general, but it is a pity that you are too stupid. Xin slowly raised his palm and said, Guards, detain Su Jiantao. Tomorrow at dawn, Go to Dragon Slaying Pass and take over all the defense of Dragon Slaying Pass. Ensure that the civilians in the pass are not plundered. Su Jiantao was stunned. Your Highness, are you going to use force? Yes. Then I have changed my mind. I am willing to surrender to your Highness, but your Highness must change your banner to that of the Qin army. Moreover, as long as your Highness you gives the order, I will still listen to his orders. Is that okay? This? Sheen frowned. Otherwise this subordinate would rather bite off my tongue and commit suicide. All right, I promise you. Thank you, your Highness. Chapter 878. On the next day, besides the violet Yinghua flower flag, another flag of the Xiyin Corps had risen within Dragon Slaying Pass, and it caused the scouts of the Darkstone Empire that were watching from afar outside the pass to be completely bewildered. Sheen has appeared again. In the forest, Bailey Qin, Fuyu, and the others gazed at the Dragon Slaying Pass. Bailey Qin was dressed in military attire, his face full of anger. This little girl is stretching her hands too far. Does she want even the Dragon Slaying Pass? Fuyu clenched his fists and said, Marshal, I feel that Xiyin seems to be intentionally going against our Darkstone Empire. She said that she doesn't want to see slaughter, but isn't she actually trying to fight for territory with us? The Dragon Slaying Pass and the Heavenly Saint Pass have both fallen into her hands. This means that the two westward passages on the White Radiance Mountain are in her hands. Wouldn't it be like drawing water with a sieve? Sheen wants to unify the southern ridge? Bailey Qin frowned. The task His Majesty gave me must be completed. There's no need to say anything else. Choose 20 elite warriors to follow me into the Dragon Slaying Pass. I want to meet Sheen and see what she wants. Ancestor, please think thrice. Bailey Yen, who was dressed like a scholar, hurriedly said, We still don't know Sheen's true intentions. If we enter the Dragon Slaying Pass rashly, I'm afraid that if Sheen makes trouble. So what if she makes trouble? Bailey Qin's lips curled up. I, Bailey Qin, have dominated the celestial pole continent for more than 10,000 years. Only Sikong Ming and Lord Longxi can make me concede defeat. It's just Sheen, a level 7 battle angel. Do you think I'm afraid of her? If I hadn't rejected the Blazing Angel was request to ascend back then, I'm afraid that I would at least be a four-winged angel in the Western Divine Realm who wields power over a region. Compared to an angel in charge, a battle angel is merely a lowly lackey. Yes, all right then. Bailey Yen was a little worried. Commander Fuyu, please choose elite warriors to follow the ancestor. Fuyu chuckled. Don't worry, military advisor. I will personally accompany the marshal. That's good. In the afternoon, the mansion within the Dragon Slaying Pass received news from the Blackstone Empire's main camp. It was lunchtime, and under Su Jintao's orders the Spirit Fire Division arranged a rather sumptuous lunch. The large round table was filled with all kinds of delicacies. There were things that flew in the sky, ran on the ground, and swam in the water. The Shattered Cauldron realm was very rich in species, so there were countless wild and delicious dishes. Terralyn, Lake, and the other battle angels were amazed. Many of the delicacies had never been eaten even in the Western Divine Realm. I finally understand why the Lord Ruler insisted on competing with the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor for this spiritual mountain plain. Terralyn wiped her mouth and laughed. So it's to compete for the most delicious thing in the world. Oh, where did this naked piece of meat come from? It's so delicious. Su Jintao said respectfully, It's a sausage made from wild boar meat, Lady Terralyn. Oh, I see. Then, what about this plate? These messy things are actually so mellow and delicious. What is it? Could it be the brain of a holy beast? No, this plate is called crystal tofu. It was created by the former Emperor Radiant King, Qin Jin. It's also a specialty dish of the royal chefs in the Swallow Blue City's Zetian Palace. Coincidentally, one of the people from the Spirit Fire Division who came with me used to be a royal chef. Crystal tofu? Delicious. Terralyn ate heartily. Lake smiled playfully and said, Terralyn, you're the heir of the Radiant clan and a level 6 battle angel from the Divine Realm. You have to pay attention to your table manners, okay? Look, everyone's looking at you. Hee hee. Terralyn laughed. It's too delicious. I couldn't control myself for a moment. However, Su Jintao's gaze remained fixed on Xiyin. Her bowl was already filled with food that the waitresses had placed in it, but she was only taking small bites. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and she did not comment on whether the food tasted good or bad. Especially when she tasted the crystal tofu, her body trembled slightly. Somehow, she felt as if she had tasted this dish before. Lady Xin, are you alright? How does it taste? Su Jiantao asked. Xin closed her eyes and nodded. It's delicious. Then, do you feel a sense of familiarity with this dish? Su Jiantao smiled meaningfully. If you feel that it's familiar, then that's right. This dish was created by your father, Qin Jin. When he was alive, he made it for you many times. He was recalling Xin's memories bit by bit. He had put in a lot of effort. Xin smiled. Perhaps. I'm not too sure myself. Is that so? Su Jiantao was slightly disappointed. On the contrary, Jianghu tore off a rabbit's leg and quickly finished it. He said, in another 2 hours, Bailey Qin will enter the dragon-slaying pass to discuss business. I think we should stop talking about food and think about how to deal with this God Emperor Realm Marshal of the Blackstone Empire. Moreover, Bailey Qin is an 87th level Paradise God Emperor. He's extremely strong. It's fine. Leave it to me. Xin's voice was very slow and gentle, but it was unquestionable. I hope so. Su Jiantao looked around and said, someone go and prepare the meeting hall. Set up the bell-sucking cliff and arrange the magic crystal crossbow team outside. Also, make the guards all wear swords tempered with demon heart stone. Remember, as long as one person succeeds, Bailey Qin is finished. Terralyn couldn't help but laugh. Commander Su Jiantao, you're thinking too much. Although the demon heart stone can restrain God Realm experts, the prerequisite is that it can pierce through their skin and fuse with their blood. But these guards of yours, forgive me for being blunt. Even if they perform 10,000 sword stabs, they might not be able to pierce through Lord Bailey Qin's God Wall. Moreover, with such a long time, Lord Bailey Qin would have killed them all. So, it's better if you don't arrange it. Don't let them die in vain. Su Jiantao was a little embarrassed. He rubbed his nose and said, just in case, I'll arrange it. Up to you. As long as you're happy. At this moment, Xin wiped her mouth and stood up. I'm done eating. Terralyn, Lake, Zhou Shimin, arrange for all the Battle Angel team members to follow me to the meeting hall. Bailey Qin will definitely not give up this time. I don't think we can avoid a battle. I will make the first move. If I can't defeat him, you guys help me. Even if the 7 of us work together, as long as we can suppress Bailey Qin, he won't dare to act rashly. Yes. Terralyn, don't eat anymore. No, bring this dish to my room. I'll heat it up for dinner and continue eating. Terralyn looked at the dishes on the table. She felt like she was going to be separated forever. Su Jiantao was speechless. Lady Terralyn, although we're at war now, the resources in Lingnan are very rich. The officials in Bailing City and the nearby prefectures will constantly send delicious food here. As long as you like it, you can eat every meal. Really? Terralyn was overjoyed. Commander Su Jiantao, you're the best. Su Jiantao looked at this gluttonous battle angel with a helpless expression. If all the gods in the Western Divine Realm were so cute, then there wouldn't be any wars between the 3 realms. Even if there were, it would be for food. In the afternoon, Xin, Terralyn, and the other battle angels were all standing on the walls of Zhanlong Pass. In the distance, round craters appeared on the walls. Some looked like crescent moons, some looked like round balls. In short, they were all caused by the magic crystal cannons. The destructive energy was too terrifying. Unfortunately, it still couldn't kill a God-state expert like Bailey Qin. Ka. A soldier from the land of exile was holding a spear as he squatted silently behind the battlements. Only half of his head was exposed, and the barrel of the spear was aimed into the distance. Through the scope, a row of cavalries was slowly walking out from the Darkstone Empire's campsite a few kilometers away. Astonishingly, Bailey Qin was at the front. Bailey Qin looked up at the dragon-slaying pass and suddenly felt someone spying on him. He looked into the scope and smiled. Ah! The sniper from the land of exile couldn't help but put down his spear, his face full of sweat. What's wrong, Ariat? Terralyn asked. Ariat was the sniper's name. He panted and said, Bailey Qin, he seems to have sensed me. Nonsense, he's a god and you're just a holy warrior. Do you really think that your origin sniper rifle can kill a god? Ariat shook his head with lingering fear. I guess, it's impossible. Unfortunately, there's only one such origin sniper rifle in the entire Xin Corps. Terralyn shook her head regretfully and said, otherwise, if hundreds of snipers were to aim together, they might really be able to break through the divine wall and blow Bailey Qin's head off. Ariat, Xin, who had been silent all this while, said indifferently, Ariat, lead all the long-range attackers of the land of exile and stay on the city wall. Guard against the enemy's surprise attack, understand? Yes, Your Highness. A group of experts from the land of exile knelt down one after another. To them, Sheen wasn't some battle angel, but the invincible Dark Moon Queen. She was also their sovereign and the true ruler. Not long after, Bailey Sheen and the others arrived at the city wall. Looking at Sheen and the others, Bailey Sheen cupped his hands and smiled. "Lord Sheen, it's been a long time. I didn't expect you to come to Dragon Slaying Pass. Sorry for not coming out to welcome you." "No need to be so polite, Marshal Bailey. Let's enter the pass. We'll have a chat in the conference hall." "Yes." The door slowly opened. When Bailey Sheen, Fuyu, Hanshu, and the others entered the pass, it immediately closed again. The hooves of the horses stepped on the hard stone road and entered the city. Fuyu raised his head and looked around. The walls were all covered with white diamonds and demonic heart arrows. The archers had already drawn their bows and aimed straight at them, sending chills down one's spine. The Qin Kingdom's way of treating their guests is really extraordinary. Fuyu sneered. Sheen also smiled. The golden light wings behind him slowly spread open, and he lightly flew down the city wall, leading the way. Meanwhile, Terralin, Lake, and the others held their swords at their waists and vigilantly brought up the rear. Su Jiantao rode on a black warhorse, slowly moving forward with Bailey Sheen. Bailey Sheen couldn't help but sneer. "Commander Su Jiantao, you're really powerful. You forced my army to retreat again and again. Now that I've seen it with my own eyes, I know that the commander is also immortal." Su Jiantao smiled faintly. "Marshal Bailey Sheen, you're a celestial and I'm a mortal. However, mortals won't just sit and wait for death. If we counterattack, we might even kill a god." A trace of killing intent flashed past Bailey Sheen's eyes. At this time, Sheen slowly turned around and said, "If you have anything to say, we'll talk in the conference hall." Chapter 879. The meeting hall was as spacious as a palace hall. 12 stone pillars that were hugged by giant dragons supported the weight of the entire hall. Outside, lazy afternoon sunlight seeped through the gaps between the stone pillars and fell onto the ground, reflecting colorful rays of light on the sparkling and translucent stone slabs. Outside, there were rows of vigilant guards. Today there were at least 5,000 people stationed outside the meeting hall, which could be said to be unprecedented. However, Bailey Sheen didn't seem to care about the mere 5,000 mortals. Bailey Sheen took the teacup from the waiter's hand and sat at the round table facing Sheen. He crossed his legs and said, "After the battle of the Divine Realm, the spirit mountains collided and the planes fused, causing the two planes that were originally unrelated to each other to fuse. Since ancient times, there has been a saying that two tigers cannot live on the same mountain. Therefore, only one of the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the Celestial Pole Continent can be called king." As he spoke, he drank a mouthful of tea and continued. "This time, my Marshal Saint Emperor has dispatched me, Bailey Sheen, to lead 300,000 troops of the Empire to launch an expedition to the Shattered Cauldron world, and it's for the sake of seizing more land for the Darkstone Empire to replenish the strength of the Empire. I think my actions ought to be correct, right? What do you think, Lord Sheen?" Sheen nodded. "Yes, Lord Bailey Sheen is working for the Empire." Then, Bailey Sheen's gaze became fierce, and the aura around him slowly rose. He stared at Sheen and said, "Since Lord Sheen is a battle angel sent by Ruler Claude to assist the Celestial Pole Continent in conquering the other planes, why do you repeatedly oppose the Blackstone Empire? You saved our enemy Ko Dingshi on the dragon-shaped island, and repeatedly caused trouble in Dongtian Commandery and Linghan City. This time, you actually entered the dragon-slaying pass and openly opposed the Blackstone Empire. What? Could it be that Lord Sheen is openly disobeying the will of the ruler?" "I'm not." Sheen's expression was indescribably calm. He said, "I think it's fine to conquer a world, but wantonly slaughtering people violates the principles of mercy and mercy in the Western Divine Realm. I believe the Marshal can't deny that your army has slaughtered people in Dongtian Commandery and Linghan City, right?" "That's right." Bailey Sheen spread out his hands and smiled. "Massacring an entire city is one of the methods used to boost the morale of the army. This is a tradition of the Blackstone Empire that has lasted for tens of thousands of years. I, Bailey Sheen, do not have the ability to change it for now. I hope that Lord Sheen can understand." Sheen smiled. "Therefore there's no harm in letting me rule over these cities. At the very least, I won't harm the innocent and I'll also gain more faith. Faith is the source of power for the Divine Realm and the Spirited Mountain. If the people hate the Western Divine Realm, then what can we gain by taking over the Shattered Cauldron Realm?" "What do you mean?" Bailey Qin raised his sword-like eyebrows. In other words, Lord Qin wants to personally intervene in the struggle for supremacy of the continent, and wants me, Bailey Qin, to withdraw myself? Qin said indifferently, the Lord Ruler asked me to descend to the lower realm to help the celestial pole continent seize the Shattered Cauldron realm, but he didn't specify that I should help the Blackstone Empire seize the Shattered Cauldron realm. If you, Marshal Bailey Qin, can be the master of the Shattered Cauldron realm, I, Qin, can do the same. Good. Bailey Qin clenched his teeth and said, looks like there's nothing to talk about. Fuyu said angrily, Marshal, what's there to talk about with her? This little girl is sincerely opposing us just to protect the Shattered Cauldron realm's army. Why don't we take action now and destroy her dragon-slaying pass? Han Shu held the dragon sword in his hand, and his gaze was ice-cold. He was already accumulating power and waiting to strike. Do you want to take action? Qin smiled. Good. If Marshal Bailey Qin has decided to take action, then go ahead. I'll also leave a message for you. If I can help the Blackstone Empire, then I can also help the Qinji Empire. I believe that the Qinji Empire's Emperor Baiming Yuan wouldn't mind eliminating the Blackstone Empire's army in the Shattered Cauldron realm's territory, killing two birds with one stone. Lord Qin wants to help the Qinji Empire? Bailey Qin's expression turned cold. Why not? Qin's expression was indifferent as he said, perhaps helping the Celestial Empire is also possible. I have the decree of the Western Divine Realm. I believe that the armies of the Celestial Empire and the Qinji Empire will more or less listen to me. It shouldn't be difficult for the two great empires to join hands and destroy your Blackstone Empire first, right? Moreover, they will be happy to do it. Bailey Qin laughed for a long time. No wonder. Blazing Angel Xian wants to take you as her sister. You are indeed courageous and knowledgeable. Alright then, since Lord Qin likes Dragon Slaying Pass so much, then Dragon Slaying Pass will belong to you. Generals, follow me back to camp. Yes, Marshal. Everyone stood up simultaneously. Qin said, forgive me for not sending you off. However, Bailey Qin had only taken a few steps when he suddenly stopped and laughed. The cloak behind him trembled slightly. Without turning his head, he said as if he was talking to himself, I have long heard that Lord Qin is Lord Xian's sister and is also a brilliant disciple. Furthermore, you are the champion of this God's chosen trial and have awakened the golden wings. Therefore, I, Bailey Qin, a god from the lower realm, would like to experience for myself and see how powerful Lord Qin is. I wonder if Lord Qin can give me some pointers? Qin smiled faintly. He knew that Bailey Qin would not give up so easily. Even if Bailey Qin could not kill him, he would at least want to defeat him to dampen the spirit of the Qin army. Do you want to spar? Qin said faintly, where? Bailey Qin laughed heartily and said, since you and I are the highest commanders of the two armies, sparring cannot be treated as child's play. How about, in 2 hours, prepare yourselves and we will spar in front of the Dragon Slaying Pass. How about it? Terralyn frowned and said, Marshal Bailey, you are a god emperor of the 87th level Grotto Heaven. Do you want to bully Qin, a god king of the 50th level Grotto Heaven? It is only a spar. That is the end. Bailey Qin said faintly, I only want to know how powerful Lord Qin's techniques are. Why is this not enough? If Lord Qin doesn't even have the courage to fight me, then I am afraid he does not have the qualifications to occupy the Dragon Slaying Pass and the countless cities within it. I agree. In 2 hours we will spar in front of the pass. Haha, thank you, Lord. Bailey Qin strode out of the meeting hall and mounted his horse. He said loudly, let's go back to camp. Order the 3 armies to go to the pass and cheer for me. He wanted to throw Qin's face in front of the 2 armies. However, Qin had no other choice but to accept the challenge. Outside the pass, the sound of drums thundered. In a short 2 hours, Bailey Qin had gathered at least 50,000 powerful troops outside. They were beating the drums and cheering. The 3 armies were upright and upright. The gate of the Dragon Slaying Pass slowly opened. Su Jiantao rode on his warhorse and personally led the cavalry to cheer for them. The cavalry dispersed and spread out below the pass. The purple flower war flag fluttered in the wind. It was very beautiful. Qin floated forward with the star sword in her hand. Terralyn, Lake, Zhou Shimin and the others had nervous expressions. In fact, they were the most conflicted and anxious. They had obviously come down to help the Celestial Pole Continent, but now they were fighting with the God Realm experts of the Celestial Pole Continent. No one knew what Qin was thinking. Maybe Qin was even more conflicted than them? Terralyn clenched her fists. Her stance was the most resolute among the 6 of them. She supported Sheen no matter what she did. Lake was Sheen's pursuer. Moreover, he was Terrelyn's playmate since childhood. Therefore he might as well support Sheen along with Terrelyn. As for Zhou Shimin, he and Lake were good friends. Therefore this was a chain reaction. The 6 of them decided to follow Sheen without caring about the consequences. At least, before they were banished from the Star Cave, Claude's order was for them to listen to Sheen's orders. Therefore, following orders was never wrong. They wouldn't have to worry about the ruler's punishment if they took advantage of this loophole. The 6 battle angels were less than 100 steps away from Sheen. This way they could save her at any time. Although Sheen was strong, her opponent was even stronger. He was a god emperor at the 87th level of the Grotto Heaven. The disparity was too great. Bailey Qin floated over and unsheathed the sword at his waist. The blade was suffused with a frightening light. It was another treasure that was at least a saint artifact. At the very least, Sheen wouldn't have an advantage in terms of weapons. Buzz. Bailey Qin gently swung his long sword, and instantly, streams of light flew around the blade and gathered into a thick divine power. Bailey Qin's main law was earth type, and the thick feeling he exuded far surpassed other cultivators of the same level. He raised his eyes and said, "Lord Sheen, please enlighten me." Sheen stepped out of the star sword and pointed it at Bailey Qin. She nodded and said, "Come." Lightning flashed. Bailey Qin actually shattered the void. His sword slashed down from the sky. It was as fast as lightning. An ordinary person probably wouldn't be able to block it. However, Sheen's perception was far better than an ordinary person's. The star's sword shone brightly in front of his chest. He pressed the back of the sword with his left hand. He had to block this attack. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Bang! The earthen light and the light-type godly power clashed. Instantly, it was obvious who had the upper hand. Sheen and his sword lost their balance and fell backward. The air around them swirled rapidly. The power from the blade was too strong. Sheen felt that he wasn't blocking a sword, but a huge mountain. "Eat my second sword." Bailey Qin's aura was ferocious. Once he gained the upper hand, he stabbed out a second time. The power in his blade was so strong that the ground where he flew past began to crumble. Cracks appeared everywhere he flew past. It was terrifying. Sheen. Terrelyn couldn't help but clench her fists. However, she knew that this wasn't the time to attack. As expected, Sheen, who was spinning in the air, let out a low shout. A small ball of light appeared around her sword. It was the Law Spirit Pearl of the light element. Instantly, her strength was doubled. Her sword was unrestrained. With a dang sound, she shook off Bailey Qin's second sword attack. This time it was a draw. Sheen took a few steps back and Bailey Qin was stunned for a second. What a strong pressure of godhood. Bailey Qin's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but want to kill her. This girl was only at the 50th level of the heavenly abode, yet she could block an attack with 60% of his strength. How shocking was that? He didn't say anything. Instead, he swung his sword upwards. Suddenly the ground cracked. Stone spikes shot out from the ground towards Sheen. Bailey Qin was already planning to use the Law Spirit Pearl to suppress his strong opponent. Chapter 880. Bang bang bang. Numerous sharp stone awls broke out of the ground and went straight for Sheen. They were like a long dragon that suddenly emerged from the ground. The power was so strong that ordinary people could not withstand it. Sheen spread her wings and suddenly shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, dazzling dragon crystals fell from the sky and collided with the stone awls. Pure energy substances splashed and turned into shock waves. The broken stone fragments mixed with the energy light curtain, and dust rose into the sky. It was a terrifying scene. It's the celestial dragon crystal. Su Jintao's hand, which was holding the hilt of his sword, trembled slightly. He said, "She must be Princess Qinin." "She must be," Terrelyn smiled and said, "even if she is not now. She has no memory of Qinin at all. How can she be the Qinin? Listen to your orders? Let Sheen go. Don't mention Qinin before she remembers everything." Su Jintao clenched his teeth and remained silent. Amidst the dust, a wave of air suddenly surged. It was like a sail being blown by a hurricane, reflecting a huge fist. The shadow of the fist was completed in one move. It was Bailey Qin's next attack. This time he was using 70% of his strength. Bang! The 3 celestial dragon crystals shattered at the same time amidst the sound of metal colliding with stone. Xiyin could not help but let out a whimper as a few golden feathers flew out from her golden wings. In the blink of an eye they transformed into golden stars in the sky. Her power had been damaged. Use the eyes of blazing light. Bailey Qin's roar could be heard from the dust. With a so, his entire body suddenly shot out like lightning. His fist carried the force of a mountain as it landed heavily on the divine wall in front of Xiyin. Bang! Xiyin was sent flying and the holy wall shone brightly. Facing a god who was stronger than her, the holy wall was no longer invincible. The golden red flames around her flew and rotated. She smiled and slowly opened her eyes. Suddenly there was a buzzing sound and the atmosphere seemed to change instantly. Bailey Qin forced himself to open his eyes and looked at the eyes of blazing light. He felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Every inch of his skin felt like it was in a hell of fire. It was very uncomfortable. Stone armor. With a roar, streams of earth divine power turned into a golden armor and surrounded Bailey Qin. His eyes were naturally hidden behind the armor, and they shone with a cold light. A saber made of pure divine power appeared in his hand. He smiled faintly and said, "You are indeed a level 7 battle angel. You are much more powerful than the other battle angels. Master Xin, you have to be careful from now on. I will do my best and you must do your best too. Otherwise, I might accidentally kill you." Xin's eyes turned cold. She couldn't help but raise her head proudly. Her long neck glowed like snow under the sunlight. Suddenly, she shouted in a low voice and attacked Bailey Qin with the star sword instead of defending. She slashed at Bailey Qin dozens of times consecutively. She was too fast. Almost 40 slashes were completed in 5 seconds. Su Jiantao and the rest couldn't even see Xin's movements. They could only see the golden flames and the domain aura from the eyes of blazing dawn. Apart from that, there were also pieces of broken golden armor. Needless to say, those were the pieces of the stone armor that Bailey Qin had created. Bang! The airflow was turbulent. Bailey Qin was forced to retreat for almost 300 meters under Xin's heavy slash. His body left a long grayish-yellow trail in the air. If he didn't rely on the airflow, he would have retreated for another few hundred meters. Ah! The stone armor on the surface of Bailey Qin's body shattered inch by inch. Even the godly wall started to crack. Bailey Qin's expression was calm. He gritted his teeth and laughed loudly, "Good attack. Good attack." On the other hand, Xin's exquisite white battle angel cloak fluttered in the wind. She looked calm, but if one looked closely, the godly wall around her body had already been shattered. Moreover, there was a barely visible blood mark on the side of her neck. That was the mark left by Bailey Qin's saber. In reality, the one who was at a disadvantage was Xin. Bailey Qin already had the chance to kill her, but he didn't grasp it well. Should I use it or not? Xin frowned slightly and asked herself repeatedly. When Xiyan was training in secret, she had told him not to use it when it was not necessary, but now that Bailey Qin had shown his killing intent, if he did not use it, he was afraid that he would never have the chance to use it again. No, I have to use it. I have to protect the dragon-slaying pass at all costs. Thinking up to this point, Xin's eyes of blazing light became even more powerful. It even forced the soldiers 500 meters behind Bailey Qin to continue to retreat. They couldn't resist the burning aura of the eyes of blazing light at all. Bailey Qin was already drenched in sweat. Even though he had the upper hand, he wasn't much better off. Holding the star sword with both hands, Xin gritted her teeth. Waves of energy surged in her body. With a wung sound, the light from the long sword shot out dozens of meters. Then the light from the sword began to split up. In the blink of an eye, it was as if she was holding dozens of star swords in her hands. This was the ultimate technique that Xiyan taught her when she was staying at her residence. Oh my god! On the ground, Terilyn's mouth was wide open. She was dumbfounded. That's... Lake was also shocked. Zhou Shimin gritted her teeth. What a strong power. What is the origin of this move from Xin? Terilyn's voice trembled slightly. It's Blazing Angel Xiyan's ultimate technique. The first form of Xiyan's 7 slashes, split. Oh my god, Lady Xiyan actually passed her ultimate technique to Xin. Su Jiantao and Jianghu were stunned. They didn't even know who Xiyan the Blazing Angel was. However, seeing how powerful experts like Terilyn and Lake were so shocked, it was obvious that Xiyan was quite powerful. In the air, Bailey Qin was in an even more difficult situation. He had never seen Shi Yan and didn't know what Shi Yan's 7 slashes was. However, Xian's sword was so strong that he even felt a trace of fear. The flames turned into air waves and spread out. Xian's speed was unparalleled. He waved his sword and casually used the first form of Shi Yan's 7 slashes. Oracle Rock Wall. Bailey Qin hurriedly used his strongest defensive technique. A 3-meter thick rock wall appeared in front of him. It was extremely thick, but it seemed like it wasn't enough to withstand the power of Split. However, he could only try it as a last resort. Ping ping ping. Multiple layers of light divine power landed on the earth divine power. Instantly the rock wall turned into a sieve, and Bailey Qin managed to escape. He glided away from his original position. Behind him, streaks of sword chi slashed through the air. If they landed on him, he would probably be in deep trouble. Papa. A thunderbolt spread out behind him. It was the void shattering. Bailey Qin was stunned. Xian was here, but he couldn't escape. In the eyes of Blazing Light's domain, he couldn't use the power of the void shattering. Rock Dragon Slash. Since he couldn't escape, he might as well go all out. Bailey Qin's long sword swept across with such a powerful aura that Xian, who had just successfully broken through the void, did not even have time to think. She raised her long sword and a dazzling light appeared on the blade. Shi Yan's 7 slashes, the second form, bang. As the two powerful forces collided, neither side gained the upper hand. Bailey Qin's divine power was too strong, so much so that Xian could not gain the upper hand even if she tried her best. Golden blood flowed down the hilt of the sword. Xian's hand almost couldn't hold the power anymore. Shi Yan's 7 slashes was created by Shi Yan based on her own strength. However, Xian's strength was far from Shi Yan's. Using the second strike was already his limit. Bailey Qin saw this and said plainly, "Why do you have to force yourself, Lord Xian?" "No." Xian panted heavily. Her eyes were filled with wildness. She smiled and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to spar? I haven't let General Bailey see my strongest attack yet." As she spoke, she raised her sword. Blood dripped down from the corner of her mouth. The star's sword started to tremble. The golden light divine power turned into rays of blood-red light that surrounded the sword. It was the third form of Shi Yan's 7 slashes. The first form, destruction. A powerful and awe-inspiring aura rose. The demon and god taboo, destruction was the most powerful move among the first 3 forms. At the same time, it was also the most difficult to master. The scorching light divine power rippled in the air, causing Bailey Qin to be on his back. Enough. Suddenly Bailey Qin raised his palm and said plainly, "I, Bailey Qin, have already experienced Battle Angel Xian's ultimate technique. Let's end it here. You and I are both gods of the Western Divine Realm. There's no need to fight to the death here. What do you think, Lord Xian?" The power of destruction slowly dissipated. Xian smiled lightly. "General Bailey Qin is right. Then please withdraw your troops?" She secretly rejoiced. She hadn't completely grasped this destruction move. If Bailey Qin really wanted to fight, her body wouldn't even need Bailey Qin to make a move. Her body would collapse first. If that happened, it would be a nightmare for the dragon-slaying pass. Bailey Qin was too strong. Terilyn, Lake, and the others behind her wouldn't be Bailey Qin's match even if they joined forces. Moreover, Bailey Qin still had Han Shu, Fuyu, and other God Realm experts to help him. "I will obey Lord Xian's orders. The Blackstone Empire's army will immediately depart and return to Linghan City." Bailey Qin dispersed his stone armor and cupped his fists. "I, Bailey Qin, will take my leave. Thank you, Lord Xian, for your guidance." This little girl also thanks the marshal for his guidance. Xian lowered her head and watched Bailey Qin fly away. In the air, the voice of the Blackstone Empire's marshal echoed, "Everyone retreat, return to Linghan City." "Xian, are you all right?" Terilyn flew forward and supported Xian's arm. However, Xian's face was extremely pale. Not long after she landed, she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and softly fell into Terilyn's embrace. In the end, Bailey Qin was still stronger than her. Even the flaming eyes couldn't change the absolute difference in strength. The conch's horn echoed throughout the Blue Flame Army and Ocean Army. Bailey Qin's face was ashen. Fuyu raised his warblade and urged his horse forward. He said, "Marshal, are we just going to give up like this?" "No, why should we give up?" Bailey Qin's gaze turned cold. "Where is Honshu?" "This general is here. Immediately ride the giant dragon back to the Empire and meet His Majesty. Apply for 1,000,000 gold and silver, 10,000 demon spirit stones, and His Majesty's Order of Honor. Bring these items to the Thunderblaze sect and ask the sect master of the Thunderblaze sect, Lord Longxi, to come out and help. But Lord Longxi has never concerned himself with the Empire's war affairs. I'm afraid this will be a little difficult. Don't worry, just tell him that there is a battle angel in the Shattered Cauldron realm that even I, Bailey Qin, am not a match for. Yes, this general will do it right away. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.